I'm Will Flanagan from Frontier Developments, and you're listening to the Loose Screws podcast. Remember, always keep your fuel tanks full and your 07s poised.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. This is Commander Jay on Tracks butting in to tell you that the route and waypoints for our Distant Screws expedition is now public on EDSM. I'll be heading out on my first trip to Colonia and Sagittarius A-Star, and I'll be live streaming the whole thing, so anyone who's curious about what the trip is like, but not ready to commit to going on their own, can follow along in the experience. The route stops by many famous and beautiful locations on its way out and on the way back. And in between those, we'll try to get off the well-worn road and see if we can find some new systems never seen before. The streams will happen on Tuesday nights starting around 7:30 Eastern Time from March 3rd, with the last stream taking place on April 28th. In addition, there will be 3 streams on weekend days during hours when UK visitors will be able to watch and participate. All 12 episodes will also be archived on YouTube so they can be replayed anytime. During the streams, I want to bring commanders from the community into Multicrew and chat about the galaxy and whatever else is going on. We'll use the Loose Screws Discord for voice comms so everyone can join in. If you're interested in riding along, message me on Discord and tell me which episode you'd be able to be a part of. If any commanders want to fly their own ships out with me on the trip, send me a message for that too. If 10 or more sign up, we can make it an official expedition on EDSM. Go to tinyurl.com/distantscrews for the routes page on EDSM and come to the events channel in the Loose Screws Discord for questions and discussions about this event. And now, without further delay, switch on the Super Cruise Assist, align ship with target, get some snacks, and settle in for the Loose Screws podcast.
Hey guys, this is Ty Worsham with Loose Screws, and with me this morning, our guest today is a wife and husband team specializing in using third-person multi-crew in their videos. Hosts of the Thargoid Report, Witch-Based News, and the conductor of station traffic that always tells you to follow the greens on the way out, Commander Rheeney and Commander Buur from the Buur Pit. How's it going this morning, guys?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
good
thank
thanks.
you. Hi, guys.
And with me, of course, is my standard issue co-pilot, Commander Kai. How's it going this morning, bud?
Fantastic, brother. We're flying spaceships, and I'm here with 2 beautiful people and a tie and a donkey. But you're not going to find out about that. That's a secret. But yeah. So everything's good, man.
Yeah, there was a donkey outside my window that I'll have to explain later. But anyway, and apparently they are called honky donkeys, which
honky donks.
Yeah. It's a little known fact outside of the Buur Pit that anybody who interviews us gets a free donkey.
Yeah. Yes. Well, everyone who visits the Buur Pit, and the link to the Buur Pit Discord will be in the show notes for this episode. Make sure that you ask about Rheeney's safe word, honky donk, and you'll get the whole story. So that's if you get the whole story, you have to join their Discord as well, and then you get both sides of it.
The honky donk story.
And ask Buur about his Thursday nights. That's all.
Thanks for that. Yeah,
you're very welcome. Oh man. So you guys are like the dream team of the Elite Dangerous world between Buur's voice and Rheeney's camera work. You guys are all over the place.
Oh heavens,
that's very sweet of you. Thank you very much. We don't. I do consider myself extraordinarily lucky, I have to say. Not because of my voice, which I just think sounds awful in London, but because my wife really has grown an appreciation for Elite, but also absolutely adores flying a camera around for me. So That's fair to say, isn't it, dear?
Yes.
So yeah,
Nice.
there's certainly a dream going on. Yeah, I can't quite believe my luck.
So
Yeah,
let me ask you, Rheeney, like how do you get those camera angles? Because like that's one of my I consider myself a bit of an artist, and I love to watch like really good cinematography. And between you and the pilot, y'all two are like my favorite elite dangerous photographers. You know.
Oh, thank you.
mate.
Do you like multi-crew and then go outside and then do it that way, or?
Yeah. So my whole thing in Elite, I don't really play Elite like you guys do. My whole thing was I got brought on board to try out doing the camera work in third person. So I literally spent all of my life, I feel like a dog hanging out the window half the time. I'm always around the ship somewhere, but I'm never in the ship. I miss most of what's going on
You
inside
quite
the
often
ship.
get killed actually because you're not in your ship.
Oh, I get killed quite often. Yeah.
So like a lot of what we do is multi-crew. So if you see the ship moving in any serious regard in any of our videos, the chances are we're in multi-crew doing that. If it's flying in a straight line and something arty is happening with the camera around it, that's usually Rhee off on her own filming. She does, because of the amount of footage we have to consume. Rhee does an awful lot of filming on her own.
Yeah.
And
then
then
practice. It's just taking a lot of practice. And then there's lots of people in the community, especially on the sort of photography side, that have been inspirational, really, along the journey, and then trying to sort of work with the angles that you see in screenshots and translating that into footage as well. And then just practicing, really. As corny as that sounds, it's just been a year and a bit's worth of practice, and hopefully it pays off and you get some nice stuff out of it.
Yeah, man, you're like SPVFA level. You've put in that 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. So
Yeah.
you got it down.
Thank you.
That's really sweet of you. Thank you.
I think you do an amazing job. Like I love to watch your work, and it's great. And Burr's cool too. So
Yeah, he's all right. At the end of the day, it was nice coming on board because it was only a. Is that okay to talk about this now? I presume so. It was only on. Burr got to a point where he couldn't quite keep up the footage, and you actually had the thought where he thought that combat might look really good from third person.
It was kind of a conversation up here, sort of between the three of us, wasn't it? Because our son pitches in on the Burr Pit as well. He kind of runs our Discord for us because we didn't really know what we were doing with Discord. And it ended up being, correct me if I'm wrong here, Rhee, because my memory's a bit fudgy on the whole thing, but it was a conversation up here one night, actually in the pit, when I was saying, because I was doing Witch Space News on my Todd for the longest time on my own. Does that translate, Todd? I don't know if that does that make sense to an American ear.
Yeah, it makes
So
sense.
yeah,
On your own.
yeah.
So I was doing Witch Space News on my own for how long was it? Was it about 6 months?
About 6 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was doing Witch Space News on my own for about 6 months, and I got to the point where I couldn't play the game enough to know what I was doing and get all the footage that I needed. And so we ended up sort of having a casual conversation about getting the camera out in multi-crew, and our son was up here as well. And then there ended up being a conversation about the one thing I can't get is combat. Right,
That's true.
You can't fight and film at the same time effectively, not and have it look interesting from outside the ship. And that's kind of how it was born, really, wasn't it? And then we started experimenting with different control methods, because you started off with an Xbox controller, didn't you? And keyboard and mouse. We try, and then we keep on coming back to HOTAS, really. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
And then practice.
And I just think it's such an amazing game. But don't get me wrong, it's nice from in the cockpit, and you see some awesome stuff in the cockpit. But it's such a cinematic game to be able to just hop out the ship and capture, especially some of the combat stuff. I think it shows the game off in a really good light. I think it looks really, really good when you can see the whole thing happening from third person. It's a beautiful game.
And you get to see like lots and lots of little details as well, don't you? That people quite often don't see from the cockpit.
Yeah.
Things like, I mean, it was a real revelation to us. I don't know if you've been to the mega ships and that have been attacked by Thargoids and done any of the repair missions that you can do for them.
Oh yeah.
So you fire a limpet at it. Well, the limpet goes over to the hole in the side of the ship and sprays it with foam.
Turns into a little fire. Turns into a little fire hose.
Yeah,
the other
like
one,
a little fire hose kind of thing goes on.
One of the other ones that was quite an interesting one, which they've now slightly changed the mechanics, but you can still do it if you're out in the camera before it happens, is filming an interdiction from third person. That was quite interesting. And then you can also get some really cool screenshots, because if you're outside the ship and the interdiction starts, you can actually see the whole interdiction. You can go around it and through it.
Yeah. So she's kind of like you. We grabbed footage before of Rhee moving around inside. I want to call it the interdiction tunnel. If you know what I mean? That effect like that you see from the cockpit when you're being interdicted is actually a tunnel around the ship, and Rhee can move backwards and forwards through it and around it, and kind of get the whole interdiction sequence from an angle that a pilot just can't see.
So you get all of the external angles there. The only thing you're missing is the internal angle, where you see me go, "Oh shit!" and beer and a beer spill on a plate of nachos.
Well, as far as you're aware, we can't get that. But of course, there's now a camera donkey outside Ty's place. So
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at your stuff, also from your Discord, your Elite Images channel again is. I'm talking. There's a mix of stuff. There's some amateur level stuff that is being sort of put on there, just like on our Discord, just like on every Discord, and that's the level of pictures that I take for the way.
Right there with you.
By the way, yeah. But you have, you've got Snert and Primetime Casual and Sanderling, and you've got some other photos up here. Eagle, of course. That it's like, okay, this is some stuff that it's like, whoa, okay, that's next level. That is.
And then this year's been quite terrifying, because we've had just recently 2 of my original sort of heroes in the.
You're a bit of a fangirl for Zero Axis, aren't you?
Well, Zero Axis, Death Exorcist, and also Orange Phoenix. I mean, 3 people that when I started were people that I just, and I still do. There's a good half a dozen or a few more camera people. A lot of it because obviously I link in with the Spiver group as well, and you just stand in awe at what these guys do. And then when they join your Discord, you have a fangirl moment. I mean, it really was like, oh my God, I don't think I'm ever going to post a picture ever again. But they're inspirational, and it's good because you can learn off what they're doing.
Oh, 100%. Orange, it's actually, you didn't get his name right. I got to correct you. His middle name is SPVFA. So it's Orange SPVFA Phoenix.
What do we call him in the bird pit?
If he appears on one of our live streams, I start screaming Orangey Phenol.
He's called Orangey Phenol.
Nice. I'm going to have to hit him up with that later. Yeah.
He'll thank us.
I'm sure he'll thank you for that. Yeah.
Nice.
Orangey Phenol.
Oh man. So, like just great stuff here. I'm literally right now as we speak just scrolling up and down through your images channel.
Yeah. It was amazing to have. Well, certainly like. So not to diss any of the others at all, but we've all got our favourites or whatever. And Das Exorcist is the one for me that kind of like even I let out a little squeal when he joined. So I was like,
Oh yeah, that shot that Exorcist has the high orbit insertion shot on the side there. That looks like that should be for like the poster for a movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it needs like Interstellar written underneath it or something like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, underneath that you should hear, in space, no one here can hear you scream. Coming March 2020.
Yeah.
So, all right. So tell us, take us back a little bit and tell us about sort of what it was like starting up Witch Space News, the impetus behind it, and some of the interesting stories from the early days and how it's come along.
Okay, so I actually started doing a YouTube show when Elite Dangerous first launched. Which, oh God, how many years ago was that now? What's 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
With a friend of mine at the time, and he rapidly lost interest in the game, unfortunately. But we were doing a show called Witch Space Diaries, which was a lot more sort of free form, and wasn't quite so. It was a little bit news based, but it wasn't anywhere near as structured as Witch Space is. So I started doing that, but he rapidly lost interest and then left the game. And at the time, we had we're kind of serial kind of creative types, aren't we? We've always usually got something on the go. I'm sure Rhee won't mind me saying that. And we had another project on the go at the same time, which was very, very time intensive. So I had to pick one or the other. So I was still playing Elite, but the creative side of it dropped. And then there was a sort of a 3 or 4 year period, I suppose, where I was playing the game whenever time allowed, but wasn't doing anything creative in the game. And then the other project that we were working on shut down, which is a long tortured story, which I won't bore you with. But then after that, particularly my creative itch starts going again, and I was like, I think I literally said to you at one time, I need a thing. I need a thing. Yeah, I need to be doing a thing. Otherwise, my head starts exploding. And so at that particular time, I created one video myself, which was all third person camera, and it was just a sort of tour through the Sol system, set to some nice music kind of thing. And then some very short time after that, I don't quite remember how, but I decided to start doing weekly news. And and the rest is sort of tortured history, I suppose. I think it started, didn't it start off as a weekly news show, and then I kind of sprinkled in the odd sort of creative video as well, just like, some beautiful stuff kind of videos, and then Witchspace sort of took over.
Yeah, and then the dad's trip came up.
Oh yeah, that was it. What Rhee calls the dad's trip, which was
sorry. Have you seen the translation matrix?
Which is actually, for those of you not in the know, is the Fatherhood's Lost Souls expedition.
I think that's what I said, didn't it?
Rhee, on anybody who's not on our Discord, we have and I'm not kidding, we have to have a translation matrix on our Discord, which is a channel full of the terms that Rhee uses for things.
Yep.
So, what's a good example?
Oh, hyperthrottling to hyperjump to hyperspace.
Yeah. So Rhee doesn't call stuff.
World like world?
A world like world. That's a great example.
I do not see the problem.
Literally makes me grind my teeth. So a world like world is an Earth like world.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes quite, I get it. I get it.
Say.
The great thing about it is, with Rhee, love her heart, it's not an affectation. She's not doing this to be deliberately funny or anything, or cute or anything. This is just how her brain works. This is how she remembers things.
Yep. I have the exact same thing. I just don't have the guts to let people know. I have my little code words for everything. And for the record, when she says dad strip, this is what I see.
Oh. So the dad's trip came up, and that was the first sort of organised expedition that I decided to go on, simply for the reason that it wasn't too much of a time commitment. It was only, I didn't want to be away from the bubble for too long. It was only going out, relatively speaking, it was going out a relatively short distance and then coming back. So I went on the dad's trip, as I'm now forced to call it, and I documented it in a sort of weekly, a sort of weekly YouTube diary, as well as doing Witchspace news at the same time. And then it just kind of exploded from there, really. And
then it wasn't long after that I came on board.
Yeah, yeah. And then Rhee came on, and
yeah,
right on. That's awesome. So, you definitely have, the news vibe. You cover everything with it or whatever. What was the sort of impetus behind deciding what you were going to include, how you were going to cover stuff, the tone that you like to take, different things on that level?
We have, let's call them production meetings. We have weekly production meetings with that, and also I suppose the format of the news is very much how my, Rhee won't mind me saying, I'm sure, it's very much how my brain works. So it's they generally come in at about 4 to 5 minutes in total, unless there's something that absolutely demands more time. It's quite rare for it to run sort of 8 minutes. And my brain is, when it comes to digesting things like news, particularly to do with video games, it's on, punchline, off. Right. Yeah. So I try not to waffle too much.
Keep it concise.
Yeah, I try not. The rest of my life, I waffle. I could waffle for England, but when it comes to to doing the news, my feeling was I just wanted to get what was important, get what was interesting, get what I thought people ought to know or would want to know, throw it at them really quickly, and then move on to the next thing. So I just kind of give you exactly what's happened, links to where you can go and find the stuff that if you want to look up more on that, and then quickly move on to the next thing. And I suppose I tend not to offer. I don't really think of it as an opinion piece. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's I try not to put a slant on it. Occasionally, when I think something needs saying in inverted commas, I might drop a little slant on it. But for the most part, it's boom, this happened, boom, off. And that's how it works. And the other thing I really wanted to do was have a without wishing to walk all over my wife here.
No, it's fine.
But Which Space is my baby, I suppose.
Oh, yeah,
really,
absolutely.
Isn't it? Yeah, so,
absolutely.
I wanted to have for want of a better expression, not catchphrases, but I wanted a degree of familiarity with it. So at the start, this is Which Space News, here's the date, I'm Commander Buur, and then the music starts. It's a little known fact, actually, that Kai Zen did all the voices. For
I think he did.
And
I think he nailed it.
Oh, bloody hell. And then the end of it is always, I can't concentrate now. The end of it is always follow the greens on the way out and do keep clear of the toast rack. It's kind of like, there's a night for me. There's a nice feeling of familiarity when you come to the show.
The same cadence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got the nice cadence. It's got a nice rhythm. So it's got that at the start. Boom, 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 boom. News, news, news. Here's your sign off. Now you know the show's over. Walk away and get on with your life, kind of thing. And I suppose if that answers your question, that's kind of where it.
Yeah, man,
came from.
That's what we call branding.
There you go. We stay on brand, and then makes it look beautiful.
And also, just to add in there, that it's always been this kind of focus that you always sort of do all the Frontier and all the FDev stuff, sort of whatever's happening there, but also because the community is such an important part of why we do this, why we even play this game, and so we decided very early on that the focus should be on keeping it community friendly. If there's anything out there happening in the community, then that's newsworthy as much as anything else that's happening.
Sure,
and it's ultimately, we're quite positive people most of the time, and it was just nice to keep the whole thing not salty, positive. If there is constructive criticism, that goes back, but there's a lovely focus on community as much as there is on FDev and Frontier, really. And I just think that's been important as well.
Yeah, if we've got the time, and it's not always the case, but if we've got the time in the show, we really, really like dropping in, the Buckyballs of this world, or the Hutton Truckers, what they're up to, or whatever. If there's some event going on,
latest series out there, or Prime Time, and
for sure, man.
Like that.
The only things that I suppose are quite difficult to keep up with, and so we only tend to feature ones that are really unusual, things like expeditions, because there's so many going all the time. There's always like about 3 or 4 a month. So,
well, and if you notice, there have been several people on YouTube channels that have started up a little sort of like, oh, we're going to do the news, we're going to give you information or whatever. And a lot of them tend to go the route of getting sort of sensational, or going for like get a little spicy or whatever to try to, I don't know, drum up interest. But the 3 that are successful, there are basically 3 big sort of news roundups for the week that everyone, I think, watches. And those 3 are Which Space News, Hello Dave with Down to Earth Astronomy, and it's weird because Hello Dave always starts my week. That's the first thing on Monday.
Right,
and
cool.
Which Space News is always, that's my Friday. And then the one that's the floater, the one that's somewhere in there that will come, it'll hit you as a surprise, but it'll be like, it'll come at some point, is Obsidian Ants 3306.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's neat because I kind of have a structure for my week of like, I have my solid, like, I can look forward to my Monday morning from Astro. I can look forward to my Friday morning from Buur. And then just like aunt hits me with the surprise at some point. It's nice. But the three of you, the point that I made before I got lost there is that the three of you have all approached it from the standpoint of wanting to give sort of a balance, and where there's criticism, it's constructive, and where there's praise, it's measured, but it's heartfelt. But you guys don't go the sort of sensational route, or like, oh, we're gonna, dig into this, and can you believe, that, and you don't go for the more prurient, say, angles on this kind of stuff.
I guess that's a reflection of who we are, I suppose. I mean, we do have conversations like that in the house in particular, don't they? Between the three of us, we're quite often sitting around the dinner table talking about Elite Dangerous. It's quite an Elite Dangerous house, unfortunately. But yeah, we do have those conversations. Or I wish FDev would do this, or I wish this was a thing, or I wish that would happen, or all that kind of thing. But I suppose if you really want to get your opinion out there and get people to click on it or get people to react to it or whatever, there's a place for that. But it's just not. I guess I'm too old, really.
It's not us.
Yeah. No, I get that completely. And the witch-based news has sort of a thing that now accompanies it, or at least to my mind sort of does, which is your Thargoid report. And that is like, that's just a staple for me. As someone who, we all get access to Mgram's, Reddit post and or you can pull it right off of AXI, off of their site. And it is what it is. It's like, okay, here's a piece of information, here is whatever. But the way that you present it to me is, even though I'm already, reading the stuff, I still watch the Thargoid report every week because I like the presentation, and I like also the little, you do include, you go sort of above and beyond because you have the standard script that you can get off of Hutton on their Hackscom report from Matrix 5060. You can get from our report on it. You can get by just reading the Reddit. But then you go a step beyond and include some extra little fun stuff. Like a couple episodes back, there was the one where for once, Aegis accidentally was fighting Thargoids because we got they jumped.
I love it that was a bug as well.
Yeah. So that was a bug, and then FDev immediately fixed that. And I think I think when they fixed that, someone uttered the line from what was that? Dr. Strangelove, like, gentlemen, there's no fighting in here. This is the war room.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. But like, so you've got sort of the weekend news covered there between, okay, here is what we're being told. If there is a Galnet something, then it'll definitely appear on Witch-based news. And then here's sort of community stuff and different whatever. And then the one thing that sort of is consistent, or at least was until this week, is that there's always something from the Thargoid report, at least. So it's like, okay, there's something new. Right now, and here's the thing, with right now nothing happening on the Thargoid report, I'm not even a little bit salty about that. I actually like it because for me, I think the one thing that they are actually putting effort into right now, I choose to believe, is the Thargoid stuff. So this is I don't think this is just like okay, we're turning it off now, we'll be back in 9 months. I think they have a definite narrative that they are portraying in the Thargoids' actions that has already started. We've seen it change. It's not like they just came back a month ago and were doing the exact same things as they were 8 months prior when they left. Like their actions are different now. So I think we're supposed to be watching all of this and reacting and trying to figure out and trying to guess. And I think what we're going to see now, running up to the December 2020 paid content release, is a ramping up of the story that will give a good narrative sort of explanation for the changes we will be looking to see in the 2020 paid update.
I tell you what I think's going on, and it is somewhere. You're not wrong in what you're saying, but there is a wrinkle in there. There is definitely a Thargoid narrative, and there is a plan. And I've got some very specific thoughts on where that plan might well be going. But I think the wrinkle in it has been that the plan was meant to come to a head around Christmas. Christmas just gone. I think something was. I said this on the live stream on Thursday. I think something was meant to happen at Christmas, and I think carriers were meant to be part of it. And something's happened internally at Frontier. There's obviously a big, it's a big corporate project that was all going in one direction, and Thargoids and carriers were all meant to meet at the same time around Christmas, and carriers obviously, missed the mark for whatever reason. So they've had to delay that, and that's why we're seeing a little bit of oddness in what the Thargoids are doing right now. I think they've basically turned the switch off so that they're not doing anything too outrageous at the moment. Yeah. However, that said, I still think that crescendo moment is coming, and it will be, I believe, and it'll be fascinating to see if I'm completely wrong, because someone can play this back at me, but I honestly believe that it will be around June time when carriers release. If you're of the mind to get your Thargoid on, I would be extremely ready for June, because I honestly think something horrible is coming this way.
Well, I mean, I've got I'm over the 20 billion mark, so I've got my guarantee from Frontier that I'm okay to buy mine, and I've got a couple of vials of mycoid virus sitting right next to me in a mini fridge. So I'm ready. Bring on the mothership. Let's go. Welcome. I'm going to hit him with the Will Smith line. Welcome to Earth.
Yeah, you ain't your baby's in my stomach. I've been drinking this junk for 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we've covered sort of the Witch Space news, how it started and came along, and the Thargoid report. Let's just relax and just talk about some general stuff, like so that I want you to go through and just list like some of the projects you guys do, and let's talk about them, and then we'll get into the just general game chat, whatever. But I'm a fan of the Tawanta Tales. I'm a fan of your Black Ops series. I love the group mining stuff you do. Let's start rolling through them and talk about things.
Okay, so let me talk about the Tawanta Tales right from the off. So for people who aren't familiar with that, there's a member of our community called John Thomason who is Irish, but lives in, correct me if I'm wrong, Sweden?
Norway.
Okay, Norway, something like that. One of those. North of Watford, I don't know. And he is I don't know what he does in real life, but he is, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, he's an aspiring writer. He likes writing. I know he's certainly very well read. And he, just for fun, We've got a player minor faction in the Tawanta system called the Burian Protectorate, and when we started that, we created a very simple lore around why we were in the Tawanta system and what was going on there. Yeah. And off the back of that, we launched it as a surprise to our community when it happened. They didn't know it was coming, and Thomason PM'd me one day shortly after it launched and just said, would you mind if I wrote some fan fiction about the goings on in Tawanta and what everybody's up to? And, when you hear fan fiction and internet, you start getting a bit nervous. I wasn't sure what he was going to come up with. And he just started writing stories around commanders who were in the squadron, but also stuff that he knows they've done in the game. And also included all the characters at the various stations, the Frontier created characters. So the individual that handles the Burian Protectorate stuff at Wilson Port, which is our home port, he included all those people in it and threw them all together. Thank you for that gift, Kai. That's lovely. He included all those people in his stories, and these stories go on, and he produces one every 3-4 weeks or something like that. Suddenly Thomason will announce that he's done a new story. And I know I'm biased because he's writing about our player minor faction and all our friends who are involved in the squadron and everything, but they're really good.
Yeah, fantastic.
They are really good. We genuinely really look forward to his stories, and he doesn't he doesn't always deal in the massive, empires falling, earth shattering moments or anything like that. He deals quite a lot in the minutiae and the little details of station life.
So I'm gonna interrupt you there.
Go on.
That it's not fair for you to give a review of it because you're definitely biased. So I'll give my review.
I'm an idiot. Don't forget I'm an idiot.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't just do the general stuff. He also goes into the minutia of the. I thought it'd be funny if I interrupted you and then said exactly what you said. Like, because no, it is legitimately. I am not a part of the player faction. And in reading through those, when I first went to sort of give a review of it, I was like, oh, this is a neat thing. This guy wrote a blog and I just saw the one. And then, as I said in this last week's episode, I literally went back to it this week to be like, hey, I wonder if that guy wrote another thing. Because it was a neat little thing. And that's when my head tripped to like, hey, wait, what's this on the side? Oh, there's more of these. Yeah, and I started following through the story. And I love the little hypertext stuff where it's like, here's the story going. And the guy is like, the guy's reading the report like, oh, there's some young upstart group, this Buur protectorate or whatever. And like, we're not at all worried about them. And then he's like, wait a second. They were involved in some battle. The stats on here, they had these ships. Yeah. Wait a second. Yeah. And then he clicks on it and you see the video that the guy who's reading the report saw. And then he starts to like the blood. You could just picture the blood draining from the guy's head. And then like, oh no, this is going to be bad. I got to send a report back home to say we need reinforcements.
It's so well done.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
We're blessed to have them in the community. We really are, for somebody to do that. I've printed them all off because I like sort of physical books. So I've printed them all off and made a really nice sort of book out of them. And as they come out, I print them. So I've got a hard copy, which is quite a special thing, I have to say. Really, really good.
Yeah, somebody's got a Tales from Tawanta book that it all goes in. And also, I should mention as well that Commander Universally in our group also writes whenever we have it. We do quite a lot of events and quite a lot of them. Some of it's more serious and quite a lot of it is just messing about. Yeah, a lot of it's not very serious at all. That's our science division handles that, by the way. Yep. And Commander Universally also writes a blog, just an ad hoc, as and when he feels like it, off the back of those. And I said to him the other night, I really appreciate those as well because they're very succinct. They're on, punchline off.
Yeah, really good.
And they're also he's got an amazing sense of humour and they're really funny. They're really, really funny.
Yeah, so we're very lucky.
Yeah, so we've got those two. And that just comes from our community. Those guys just did that off the back of their head.
So you have to now. You're required by law. It's a commandment. You have to make sure that you come and post an update in our general chat whenever there's a new Tales of Tawanta or the other blog that sort of has the little spoof updates.
We will do. We'd love to get more eyes on their stuff. Actually,
it deserves it.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right, so tell us a little bit about that Black Ops series.
Okay, so Black Ops was where can I start with that one? Well, interestingly, the Tawanta Tales, by the way, Thomason is part of the Black Ops side of what we do, and he started. No one else knew about it. It's in a hidden channel on our Discord, if it exists, which of course it doesn't. But were it to exist, it would be in a hidden channel on our Discord. And he was kind of. When I started that, he was like the number 2 guy. He came in to help me with it, and he started laying the foundations for Black Ops before anybody knew it existed in the Tawanta Tales, which was really nice. So like the guys were reading his Tawanta Tales, and then eventually when Black Ops sort of edged into the light a little bit, they all suddenly connected all the dots that he'd been putting down in his stories. So Black Ops, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's really, really early days for it at the moment, I should say. It's an initiative that came out of my head, and I should say it's very much influenced by, I don't know if you guys, are you aware of a YouTuber called Dyslexy who plays Armor?
I am not.
Okay, worth looking up. He's got. I'll put a link in your Discord so you can have a look. But he plays Armor, and he refers to it. It's from a group called Shack Tactical, and they play Armor in a very specific way, and what they call serious fun. So a lot of them are ex-military, and they predominantly, it comes down to playing armor in a serious way, but still enjoying it. And a lot of it comes down to voice comms and radio discipline when you're communicating, and that predominantly was what drove what I'm trying to do with Black Ops. So it's a way of playing Elite Dangerous. It's not about having a really, really prolonged fight with a really difficult foe or anything like that. I'm not about, it's not about finding a really, really tough. It's all PvE, by the way, none of it's PvP, but it's not about finding, I don't know, a really tough Corvette and then you having a 4-hour fight and then finally a rising triumphant. It's about being efficient. It's on punchline, off again, funnily enough. So it's kind of, it's about, the idea is, and I'm sure you can probably confirm this from modern Western military doctrine, it's completely overwhelming the enemy with superior firepower as quickly as you can and making sure none of your team dies.
Well, that's sort of that is the official military doctrine of it. The idea is, you never want to engage in a fair fight. That's for idiots. That's, a brave man is willing to die for his country. A smart man lets the other guy die for his.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's it exactly. And it's about trusting the rest of your team as well, and knowing you already know what they're going to do before they do it. So everybody's on the same page. So, for example, we're developing. One of the things we initially started doing was developing a process for interdicting a pirate. Okay, so it's a kind of like you have a point man, and he identifies the target. It's really simple stuff, but he identifies the target. He's looking at all the ships in the system, trying to find someone that's wanted. Everyone else is nav locked onto that guy and flying as close as they can to that guy. He identifies the target. He calls out what the target is, who's flying it, what that target's currently doing. But it's all real succinct, sharp communications. And before he initiates the interdiction, he tells you exactly what he's doing. The tether is established, starts the interdiction, tells you when he's dropping. The moment he drops, if you're close enough, then you all drop into the instance with him. And then everybody announces when they're engaging. Target's down. As soon as the target's down, everybody puts their kit away and boom, off. You're out. Yeah. And that's it. And it's all about doing things like that, but bringing that idea to every single facet of Elite that we possibly can. I want to see that. It's not the way I play the game 99% of the time, but when we do a Black Ops thing, that's how we do it. And eventually, I'd like to see it spread almost to a sub-community within our community, if you see what I mean. So most of the time, everybody will fly around like a complete baboon and crash into planets and play silly knickers. But every now and then, when we're doing a Black Ops thing, everybody will do that. And I'd like to see it. Serious fun, basically. Yeah. I'd like to see it expand to every single aspect, including space legs if we go that way.
There was also I was going to say there was also a point as well, because the way that we film the footage, we sort of we cause ourselves quite a lot of not additional work, but doing everything from third person. I've got to get my footage in with Burr's reports, and it's all quite sort of time consuming. So there was a slight angle to Black Ops in that I wasn't involved in it at all, in actual fact. It was all filmed from first person, which makes the editing quicker, which makes the punchier video, which gets it out the door quicker. So it was trying to get something that was a quicker turnaround than perhaps some of the more cinematic stuff that we do. And that was a very small driving force of Black Ops as well, was to try and get a quick video out, quick edit, quick render, job done, out the door. Yeah, that was kind of part of it as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and we don't use in-game communications for it, and we don't use Discord. We actually use TeamSpeak for it specifically, and that allows me. The other guys don't put any filters on it, but it allows me when I'm recording to put a filter on the communications as they come in, so it makes it sound like they're all on radio.
You get your squawks.
That's it. Yeah,
good
adds another layer of immersion.
Which is funny because as a military guy, I'm used to seeing movies and things, and you see the way that they're portrayed or whatever. Our communications were always sort of just crystal clear, no squawks, no anything. But it's one of those. No, it's one of those things though where you expect it in a movie or whatever. Yeah. So that's you guys are basically following the procedure of you've got infiltration, recon, the order to initiate engagement, and then just overwhelming force projection. Immediately exfil, and then a BDA AAR, like a bomb damage assessment or an after action report, where it's like, this was the target is, and then neutralize whatever, and then you bug out, and that's it. Yeah,
that's it exactly. And it's kind of it's not so it's kind of there's plenty of videos out there of people sort of overcoming overwhelming odds in a video game, and that's great, good for you. That's not how I want to play. I don't have that kind of time, and I love the idea of it comes back to on punchline off again. It's I love the idea of just getting in, getting the job done, getting home again, and putting the kettle on.
Yeah, well, for special operations communities, basically your idea of a successful engagement is that the enemy knows that there's an engagement within 3 seconds of them being no longer cognizant of anything.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then you get out of Dodge as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
Before you got 80 or 90 jihadis running up the side of a mountain.
Absolutely.
You're already 10 kilometers away.
Yeah, show's already over. Absolutely. Yeah. It was really funny actually particularly when I put the first one up, because it was a simple sort of pirate interdiction, engagement, destruction, and out kind of thing. There was a couple of people commented on there going 3 heavily engineered ships. Destroying one, I can't remember what the ship was, but it was one, sort of relatively lightly armed, not terribly terrifying ship. And they sort of said, "Oh, that doesn't look very tough," and not very. And I was like, "No, you've missed the point completely. I'm too old to be trying to project tough guy stuff. I've got a mortgage and a full-time job. I don't need to do that." And secondly, the whole point is that the guy that we hit had no idea it was coming. The show was over before he had a chance to unzip his fly, and we were gone when he blew up. That's literally the point of it.
Yeah, for sure. You're looking at a situation like in a real world situation. Let me tell you something. When you're sitting on the side of a mountain and you call it in because you've got signals intelligence saying that there's somebody that's coming down this road in a convoy. There's a convoy of Toyota Land Cruisers. There's a guy in the fourth one who's setting off a signal off of a cell phone that's being tracked by the NSA. And so they've already cross-referenced it between the henchmen that are around, the guy himself, the signals, and the movement from previous operations that this is a confirmed target. So then you call it in, they tell you to paint the target. You paint the target, which means you shoot it with a laser that you can't see except for with a special piece of equipment. You call in and report it. They call up. So like you call in and report it to your command, and then you're sitting there muted and listening while a chain of phone calls goes up to the Pentagon, which eventually goes to a lawyer. And the lawyer says, you have authorization. That's a valid target. Then he hangs up, and then, you get, okay, go for it. You hit a switch, and then all you do is just sit there and listen while an Air Force pilot comes online and he verifies everything is correct. He gets his orders. He drops the bomb. And literally, it's like, isn't that a little bit of overkill for a Toyota Land Cruiser? Yeah, that's the point. The point isn't that this was an epic. Nobody's going to make a World War II type movie of the the storming of Normandy. That's not what this is. This is the real how it would work in a real life situation of like, hey, I went in there, I did the job, I left. Nobody even knew exactly where I was.
Yeah, exactly. I tell you what always comes down to, for me actually, you talking about that is, have you ever seen Patriot games? The Harrison Ford. Okay, so
great book too.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so there's a few action sequences in that. They're all very well done. It's a great film. If you've never seen it, look it up. It's really good. There's a few action sequences in that, including a massive finish, which there's a big boat chase and bad guy gets killed. No spoilers there, obviously. The bit in that film that I absolutely adore, and I go back to over and over and over again, is there's a special operations engagement right in the middle of the film. That's all done at night, and you see the whole thing pretty much from a sort of pseudo satellite UAV perspective, and they're watching it in a war room in the CIA or something like that, and it's cold and it's clinical and it's effective and efficient, and that's the stuff that I personally find really interesting.
That was them. I like. That was them taking out the training camp in Libya.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to give a spoiler alert for the end of that movie because the bad guy was Sean Bean, and we know how that rip Ned Stark. Oh.
Yeah, there's no way it's going to end well for him. Yeah, no, totally. So that's basically what Black Ops is around.
I think also it was a bit, you touched on it earlier, but at the end of the day, we've always said from the get-go that what we do on the Burr Pit on YouTube is we have to be true to ourselves. It has to be something that we enjoy doing. And it was kind of putting out, we quite like having a little bit of variation on the channel. It may not always get the views and it may not always be to everyone's cup of tea, but it was something.
About it. Didn't do well at all. But that's another story. But yeah, it was something that you always wanted to do. So almost be down for who you are. It shows another side to the game. It might not be for everyone, but there is a subset of the community that likes that kind of way of recording. And then that, when you first asked about the other videos we do, we've sort of almost ended up now, a year and a half down the line, to almost have series. So you've got the news, you've got the live streams, you've got the Thargoid Report, then you've got the cinematics, which is turning into more my baby now, where that scratches my creative itch. So the mining ones, the combat ones, there's quite a lot in the series now. It's something that I love doing, and it may not be for the best views. You may not get the most hits off it. Yeah, we certainly don't do that for views, do we?
But you do it because you love doing it. And Black Ops kind of fell into that category as well. Sure. You do it because you want to do it, and it shows perhaps more sides to the game than you can show through just doing news stories all the time.
Well, let me be a voice to say, please, please, please continue with the Black Ops, and I want to see them embedded in the Tawanta Tales.
I can guarantee you that's definitely going to happen.
Definitely going to happen.
Right on. So let's move on to actually you bring it up. I was just ready to go there. Let's go get into the mass mining operations you guys do, where like the camera footage that Rheeney gets of 20. You got cutters and T9s everywhere. Just like they get around a rock, and it's like that.
And it looks like a sponge when they're done with it.
yeah. That poor rock has to go later on. It has PTSD from that situation.
I had a really bad day of being a rock.
Yeah.
Well, it's turned into, I mean, the video is something that I wanted to do because I just thought it would look spectacular. It gives me an excuse to put some epic music to it. But
sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all right.
Could I just say, first of all, it's lovely that we can sit here and take credit for that. But that kind of operation that you're talking about, that goes on day in, day out at the Burr Pit. We're hardly involved in it. That is the Burr Pit Mining Company,
the BPMC,
which I don't think they'll mind me saying is probably headed up by Rod Naris.
Absolutely.
And also Eagle 131 is a big part of that as well. But there's a bunch of them that get together almost every single night. They are multi-billionaires, all of them, because that's pretty much what they do all the time. And that's we've joined them on a couple of occasions, but I'd love to be able to say that was our fault, but it isn't. But the video that Rhee was talking about came off of it. That was basically Rhee's idea. And sorry, I interrupted you.
That's all right.
So yeah, that was that's your thing, and go.
No, because that's what I was going to touch on. The fact that we've ended up where Discord sort of evolving and getting bigger to see the BPMC sort of turn into a thing. It's another subset of the Burr Pit Discord now, which is hugely successful. The other week because I don't I don't like flying. I don't really like playing. I like filming.
You do. You just play it different to everybody else.
Do.
You do play.
But I've managed to get quite a lot of money and quite a lot of ranks through purely doing multiplayer and nothing else.
Yeah,
and it dawned on us a couple of weeks back that I was actually only a gnat's chuff away from turning elite in trade. Accidentally, through never trading anything myself. So the BPMC, bless them, everybody got together. We all went out. They farmed diamonds for me and they kicked me over into my first elite rank. So they were...
Congrats.
Thank you very much. I feel kind of a bit cheesy because it's all, but I'm quite proud as well that it's all been done through sort of multiplayer and not ever doing anything myself. It's an excellent way of playing. I can highly recommend it. But the BPMC have just been fantastic. This whole sort of community that we've got now who just go out there and help people and mine. And the video was just off the back of it, really.
Well, I got to correct you. That's your second elite rank because you passed up elite cinematography a while ago.
Oh, dude.
You're very kind. Thank you. I know it's not for everyone, but...
Get the hell out of here. You guys, come on.
So tell us how you guys first started in the game, how you guys hit like Elite Dangerous and you know, your thoughts behind it and your sort of history with the game.
I'll get this.
Yeah.
I first discovered Elite as a thing, I guess, around the 1983, 1984 period. I had a mate who played the original Elite on. So I'm a kid of the Star Wars generation, right? So I had a mate who played Elite on a BBC Micro. Sometime around my school years or just after my school years. Eventually, I managed to get hold of Elite on the ZX Spectrum. And I played it. I think I would have. How old was I in 1984? Reed, do some maths.
16.
There we go. Okay, so I played it on the Spectrum, or around 1984, 85, something like that. Back when I had hair, and then I wasn't very good at it at that point, but I absolutely adored it, completely adored it. And then I went on to play Frontier Elite 2 on the Amiga 500, and lost probably a couple of years of my life to zooming around in a Panther Clipper covered in military grade turrets, which was hilarious. I got to Elite in combat in that very, very, very quickly. It was nothing like as hard as it is these days. But as soon as I was completely harmless up until I got a Panther Clipper. Then I covered it in turrets and basically got Elite in an afternoon. Hilarious. So that was me. I tried the subsequent Elite games after that, but they were buggy and just didn't. I don't think they looked as good, to be honest, as Frontier Elite 2. So then you've got a sort of a dark, terrible 20-odd year period, I suppose, when I'm desperately searching for a game to fill the Elite void, and played plenty of games across all sorts of genres, but never really found the one that grabbed me. And then one magical afternoon, I suddenly saw that an Elite Kickstarter or an Elite Dangerous Kickstarter was coming, and so I hosed it with money. And got myself into the second stage beta, I think. And shortly after that, I stopped playing any other games. That's basically it. Yeah, that was basically it. Rhee, you'd never heard of Elite really until you were unfortunate enough for me to start going on about it day in, day out.
Well, yeah, between June 2018 and December 2018, it was like, that space game. That was my sort of understanding of it.
Yeah.
And then December 2018, I started doing the photography. And now I've got nothing in my life apart from Elite Dangerous either.
I suppose Turn and Burn was the benchmark moment for you, wasn't it? Was that your first video?
Yep.
So we did a combat video called Turn and Burn. I think it was called Turn and Burn the Anaconda, something like that, wasn't it? And that was the first sort of multi-crew video that we did, and that was me and my Anaconda with Rhee just doing some regular Joe combat, nothing special, with Rhee outside filming. The first time she'd ever done anything like that. We practiced probably for about 3 weeks.
3 weeks, I think we did, yeah.
Before that came out. The music on it is from Miguel Johnson, who's been a staple of ours. And it, it's funny, isn't it? We look at the camera work on that now and kind of go, well, we wouldn't let that go, and we wouldn't let that go, and we'd maybe
get out the
do
door
that
now.
better. And the way we do everything's changed completely. But at the time, neither of us certainly had ever seen anything like
it was
that.
well received, so we carried on.
Yeah.
The big surprise, because it was turn and burn, was the moment when Rheeney had her first experience of when you get rocked back in the chair and then you get the injections in your neck with the stuff. Or
she didn't know that was coming. Yeah,
that's really only funny for Expanse fans, but
of which we are.
Of which we are.
And then I had to cross at her with glazed eyes and just said, "You're one of us now."
One of us.
I've been assimilated, yeah. So, yeah. And then, but even though I don't really know what I'm doing now when I'm playing, we did a couple of, way back in our history, we've got the Rheeney Fly series.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of my introduction to playing the game. And I sort of managed to bumble through and play through incompetence most of the time, but yeah.
This was before Rheeney knew how to do anything in a spaceship. Just because we knew it would be funny, we basically put her in one of my ships and then asked her to try and do something. So there's a couple of Rheeney Flies videos, one of which is a high G landing, which was particularly classic, wasn't it?
I nailed it.
Yeah,
nailed it.
Upside down, obviously, but nailed it. Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah, that's where I started.
So have you guys done any, give us some of your highlights and whatever. Have you done the obligatory, like, okay, we're going to waste some time and go off hunting for Raxla, or have you had any just personal sort of off-stream things that people wouldn't have already seen, highlights of your time in Elite?
Off-stream? Oh, my word.
Oh, I don't know. That's a tricky one, that one.
I went to... It was a highlight for me. I mean, it's
Primetime will be proud if you mention this one.
Primetime will be proud of me for mentioning this.
He doesn't stop mentioning it.
No,
so
he
you
won't
might
shut up about it. No, so early game, very, very early game, so pre-engineers and all that kind of thing. I didn't really understand how to put a ship together. Didn't really understand about the different grades of modules or anything like that. I just assumed A grade was better, and that was that. So I A-rated an Anaconda. Made sure it was fully armed to the teeth in case I met trouble. And then I flew all the way out to Sagittarius A with a 13 light year jump range.
Well done, you. Well done.
That was a particularly proud moment. Having got there, I stayed there probably for about 6 or 7 days and then jumped all the way back again.
It took you months.
It took me months.
Months. I even remember you doing it.
Yeah.
Months.
Because I don't get a huge amount of time to play even back then. And it was, that was, I'm an idiot, basically, is the short version of that.
Not at all. Think of how many systems everyone else jumped over that you got first discoveries on because you were taking the baby steps.
That's a very kind, positive remark.
Positive thinking. I like it. I like it.
Nice catch. I don't know. I mean, I suppose, sort of for me, the real standout points that were off camera. Everything we do is on camera these days, but the real standout points off camera, I suppose, literally silly stuff like the first time I fired up the game when in beta, when the bubble didn't even exist. We had sort of 2 or 3 systems or something like that you could jump to. Going somewhere like, is it Rheeney Orbital? I think it is. One of the early outpost stations that's really, really close to an Earth-like world, and just seeing that and just sitting there with my jaw on the floor, and this is amazing. And when I bought my first Anaconda, stuff like that, and then the creation of the Burian Protectorate and seeing sort of our player minor faction in the game was just, real man tears. That was amazing.
See, you Brits have an unfair advantage completely, because like if I say, Rheeney Orbital, it's like, okay, it just sounds whatever. But then when a British person is like, Rheeney Orbital, you're like, oh, right on. That sounds like I want to go to there.
No, you see, the thing. No,
I
you
like
see,
it.
okay, from the other side of the fence, all I hear is London whenever I say anything. I think I sound like someone from EastEnders, if you know what that is, which is just
just awful.
But when you guys say something, it's Bruce Willis, or I hear Aaron in Orbital, 501 Tango 39. You know what I mean? It sounds way cool. So
I end up in between Essex and Australia sometimes. I get a bit
Rheeney's all honky donks.
Honky donks. So I was stationed actually for a little while at RAF Milden Hall. And
I used to go to the air show. I used to go to the air show every single year at Milden Hall. Yeah, oh my God, I loved it.
Wow.
So Milden Hall and Lakenheath, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, they would send us. They would send us through there, and so yeah, I'm familiar with EastEnders, and when I was there, everyone, I don't understand this because British television is so good. You guys have so many awesome things. I'm a huge Young Ones fan. I love horses.
Cool.
I love like all of these amazing things, but everyone just kept watching this stuff that I watched about 4 seconds of it and was like, yeah, no, I'm out. Neighbors and Home and Away. I was like,
Young Ones is absolute genius. I love the Young Ones.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a big Neo fan. Yeah. All right. So we've covered some of sort of your starting in the game and whatnot. Let's get to the meat and potatoes here. We're going to ask the questions that we ask everybody always.
Okay.
So, but here's the thing. And I've even made a crack a couple interviews about it ago, saying, because it's like the questions are so boring. But the thing, because we say it every time, but the answers are actually interesting because each person has a different answer.
Prepare to be disappointed.
So what are you looking forward to with regard to fleet carriers?
Oh dear.
Well, let's hear your hypothesis. Because the raging debate, there's like everyone has little different ideas, but the raging debate that there's pretty much 50-50 down the line is half the people think, of course it's got to have storage. How the hell do you have a trading ship without storage? And half the people think, no, they cannot possibly do storage. What are you thinking? So hit us with your stuff. We're ready.
I tell you what, I suppose the oh, that's a tough one. Okay, so that part of me is looking forward to hearing because we don't really know anything about fleet carriers, right? We know almost nothing about them. We don't even know how much they cost at this point. For the love of Pete, F-Dev, really. So yeah, we literally don't know anything about it at the moment. But so I'm interested in hearing anything at all, absolutely anything, but also, to a degree, sitting back and looking at the inevitable firestorm, because there's no way that they can make everybody happy. But I can't. I did a video about fleet carriers a few weeks back, and it was all kind of like, surely they must do this and surely they must do that. So there must be something to the fleet carrier equation that we don't know about, right? So we know they can jump 500 light years. We know you can park on them, and we know your mates can park on them, and we know they come in different flavors, but we don't know what difference those different flavors make and what else it is they can do. So I'm cautiously excited about fleet carriers, but this is Frontier, so you never know quite what you're going to get. The thing I suppose I'm really excited about is being able to call the thing to me as well, and be in third person camera and then film the thing arriving. I mean, that would be a hell of a thing. But I'm kind of hoping storage is a thing, and I would like to have a Battlestar Galactica kind of thing where you can launch alert fighters from it and have your fleet carrier be attacked by pirates and whatever. Surely that's got to be a thing as well. So it's that stuff, I suppose, that really interests me. But at the moment, we know so little. We know so little, Kai. Why, at this point, do we still know so little?
Well, so here's the thing. They as far as we know that they're indestructible, so it's not going to be sort of attacked by pirates. But as far as the rest of it, I completely agree with you. I concur that the fact that there's no information, it leads me down one of two tunnels. It's either A, there's a problem with the design idea, the implementation of the design idea that they had, which was like, okay, we wanted to do this and like, oh no, that's too much. We got to dial this back. And then, okay, take two, we're going to do this. Oh no, that's too little. Dial it up. So like they haven't quite got it, or hadn't until now. I feel like they have whatever they want to say locked, and they're ready to pull the trigger on that. And I think we're gonna see it next Thursday. But
I really hope so.
I think that up until this point, I think the fact that the fleet carriers were announced in 2017, I think, and they were supposed to come out in 2018.
Yes,
and then they were delayed. And then they were sort of, I say canceled, because the second time they were delayed, and it was said, and we have no announcement date. So to me, if you say we have this thing is going to be coming out on this date, and then you say it's delayed, no date, that to me means canceled. But then it was re-announced, and then it was delayed again. So there's been obvious, I think, retooling of it.
Would you say it's possible there's been an internal rethink over
100%
what a fleet carrier is and what it can do?
I would say not only, well, we know that there's been a rethink because the original statement was that it was the Squadron fleet carrier, and it was announced to be released at the same date as Squadron's dropping. Yeah. And the fact that it didn't get released sort of made Squadrons a big what's the point? But so yes, it's been rethought. It's been rethunked honky dog style multiple times. and the situation, I feel like, so now that's why I think they were reluctant to give out any information. I think that was very prudent on their part, because I think someone along the line that had sort of authority over this said, hey, let's not talk about it just yet, because I don't know if that's going to work the way you think that's going to work. And so now I hope, based off the fact that the way before, if you look at when they would get cornered in the live streams, the community team would always be like, oh, we can't talk about fleet carriers. And it was just a dead, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about it. Yeah. That was one thing. In the announcement a couple of weeks ago, where Will Flanagan was being very cheeky and was like, okay, this is going to be a shadow announcement. And then later on was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say anything. They both, when he mentioned it, and immediately Paige called him out and was like, Will, and they both had this smile on their face. That smile that they have on their face, you don't get that when you're towing the company line. That's the smile you have where it's like, okay, we finally got this, and we're ready. We're talking about it now, because right now we're talking about nothing but the 24-hour live stream. But we know that we got this now.
So, I have to say, I really feel for those guys, for Will and Steve and Paige, and the fact that I've no doubt that they absolutely want to be able to say what it is going on and what's happening, and they're the sharp end of whatever Frontier is doing, and week after week after week for years now, literally years, they've been getting carriers, and I really feel community management is a tough job 100%. At the best of times, isn't it? But they do such a job week in, week out, those guys, particularly at the moment where the game's in a slightly more challenging phase than it has been at any time in its history.
Yeah, and management just says, all right, go out there and close the door safely behind. And they're out there with the hungry lions, and they're they're armed with nothing but a very small. They've got a spork maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
and they have to deal with the Lions out there, and so yeah, for sure. But I'm sure also the fact I heard the way you reported it in Witch Space. I also Obsidian Ant and Down to Earth and everyone, including us. Everyone saw the look on Will and Paige's face. They had that smile. You don't get that smile when you're towing the bullshit line. That was we finally got this, and man, we can't wait to talk about it, but we're not allowed to for 2 more weeks kind of look.
Yeah, cool.
We said hurry up though.
Yeah. Now's good. Yeah.
That's good. Come on.
Yeah.
Anything else? Come on.
For sure.
See, I've kind of been in the mindset that ever since the infamous leak come out, that they've been a little gun shy about things, and I kind of feel like that when that leak come out, because they were at a what was it called? Their meet and greets,
the community meet.
They were at community meet. Yeah. And when that leak went public, like FDev recalled everybody there, like they all got up and left. And I think that's a very telling sign, because it was shortly after that leak that FDev went silent.
Yeah.
And I think they're in a situation where I don't think they know where the leak came from. And if they do, they're not saying, and they probably never will. But I think it's a situation where there were so many things that were not fully baked and they weren't ready for it. And then that leak come out and that scared the crap out of them. But what I'm curious about, what you guys think, because, the running theory right now is that FDev has moved Elite from being their AAA title back to their like a back burner B title, for lack of a better term. Do you kind of feel like that's what they've done with the game, or do you think it's just they're building it to something big?
I don't for one moment believe that Elite has been moved to a back burner game, or is no longer a significant property for them, not by any stretch of the imagination. I think that as I said, I think the game is in a challenging phase at the moment for them, simply because they obviously had a project that was meant to hit milestones, and one of those significant milestones has dropped. And they've had some problems with the existing game that they've had to sort out as well. So that has put essentially I suppose at this point we're probably looking at a year-long gap in the middle of the game's development right now that we're in the middle of. We described it as the doldrums, didn't we? It's kind of like, you're in a boat and the wind just drops suddenly and the water goes placidly smooth, and that's the period we're in at the moment. I think the launch of Carriers will be a big event, and I do think there'll be lots and lots of interesting stuff on there that they'll then build on. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm confident that there will be interesting stuff in there, and I genuinely, hand on heart, think 2020. Am I allowed to say what we think 2020 is? Are you okay with that kind of spoiler on here?
I was actually going to ask you about it, but yeah, go right ahead.
Sure. For sure.
Okay, so
back to Carriers.
Okay, so the leak was, for anybody who doesn't know, stop listening now. But the leak was that it was space legs, a first-person shooter element, or a first-person gameplay element, I want to say, and also base building. I'm of the opinion at this point that leak is all but confirmed. I do genuinely believe that is very probably what they're working on, and I could not be more excited about it. I think it's absolutely the way the game needs to go, and I'm really, really can't wait. I can't wait. I like space simulators, but I also like tactical first-person shooters. So I'm just in heaven, if that's the thing. Sorry.
So let me ask you, with regard to that, because this game isn't aimed at sort of that crowd for the most part, and so many people play this game with a HOTAS. How do you see them integrating that kind of gameplay mechanics with regard to like a HOTAS?
Rhee's going to be giving me nervous looks now because we've got a video coming out in a couple of days where I talk about this kind of subject. But
the HOTAS thing is very valid. I mean,
absolutely the HOTAS thing. Well, I can't speak to anyone else's setup, but I've got a throttle to my left, a HOTAS to my right, and then immediately next to the HOTAS, I've got a mouse.
So let me put you at ease and say you can spoil your whole video, no problem. Because this interview,
gee, thanks.
This interview won't be released until Monday. So I mean, I don't know if your video is being put out after Monday, then for sure hold back. But if it's something that you're releasing, on Monday, then
we wanted to put it out Thursday, didn't we? But we lost the hard drive. So one of our hard drives died. So
it might be Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, then for sure bear that in mind and keep yourself edited, I guess.
But yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, the guys in VR are the ones that really worry me. There's two sides to this equation, right? I don't believe for one moment that Frontier are going to add space legs to the game and then participating in space legs is going to be mandatory. I don't think that's the case at all. I think the core game, as it is at the moment, if that is your thing, will stay. But I think if you buy into the Space Legs expansion, or if you don't buy into the Space Legs expansion, then there'll be a little bit of space leggery that'll be added to the game for free, just so that you can get a taster and work out if it's for you or not. But I think the majority of the Space Legs content will actually be part of the paid expansion. And then if it doesn't work for you, your core game is still going to be there. And I also believe that they'll add stuff to serve the core game as part of 2020 as well that doesn't require the Space Legs part of the equation at all as well. So I think, I might be looking at it with two rose-coloured glasses, but that's my gut feeling. Why would you destroy your golden goose?
Sure.
Just to give it a nice pair of trainers.
I think you can look at their history and say, look at the way they handled the Horizons expansion. There are still plenty of people, and I scratch my head about this all the time, but there are plenty of people that play Elite and enjoy Elite entirely and just said, no, thank you. I have no interest in landing on planets. I don't want to mess with engineers. So I 100% concur with your thesis there that if people don't like a certain aspect that they're going to introduce with regard to the 2020 update, that you'll still have plenty. It's not like they're going to take it away and suddenly you can't farm a Haz-Res anymore unless you also get out and pew. For sure. Me personally, I've said it before. I used to shoot people for a living for 8 years. I have zero interest in first-person shooters. Those games turn me off entirely.
Right.
I'm excited about the aspect of Space Legs with regard to something like No Man's Sky, but without the cheesy graphics or whatever, or Deliver Us the Moon, that Steam game. I'm interested in Space Legs for the purpose. I would love Space Legs if I get to do an EVA and fix something on my ship or on a station or something. All of that stuff I love. Any aspect of a gameplay that involves running around with the gun and shooting people or Targoids or whatever, I'm that's not for me. But
I do. I think that will be part of Space Legs, but it won't. It's not like they're going to ignore mining or they're going to ignore exploration or. Like you say, getting out and repairing your ship. I even think, there's a possibility that engineering will be included in all of it. So, I think few people will obviously be part of it, but it won't be the whole sandwich.
And just leave me base building. I'll be quite happy doing that.
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot a gun.
I don't He's going to go nuts. The arcs.
I was actually...
Real quick before we go to the other thing, because I know I definitely want to get into the base building, but real quick, Down to Earth Astronomy put out a brilliant video I don't know, last year sometime that said, here's why Space Legs could be good even if you don't like Space Legs. Right. And he said, his central point of that video was, your space stations are going to seem empty as fuck if you can't see a bunch of other people walking around in the station with you.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, in order to facilitate Frontier being able to provide that, which they're definitely seem to be aiming for, they're going to have to work on their back end so that they allow more people for instancing to get into the same instance. So even if you never buy Space Legs update, or you're just like, I'm never getting out of my ship, I'm an old school grogger and I just don't do it. In order for them to facilitate that, they're going to have to make it to where you could now have maybe 10 or 15 or just more people in a Hazres working together, or in a mining op working together without bugs. So that could be a backdoor way for people who hate Space Legs to enjoy the rest of the game more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll turn the mic back over to Ty there. I know he had a point he wanted to make about the base building aspect.
Well, that's something I was going to ask you about. Is like, that's one of the things they've talked about is the base building thing. And I've recently, I bought No Man's Sky. Well, let me back up. I bought Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen on the same day, and I bought No Man's Sky like launch day. And I've never been I'll come back to Star Citizen because that game's a mess, but or that demo is a mess, the best way to put it. No Man's Sky has some. It was awful at launch, but I recently spent some hours back in it, and the flight mechanics are boring, and I don't give a crap about them. But the walking around base building stuff is some of the best I've ever played.
It's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah, I've looked at that.
Yeah. And I want them to do that with Elite to some degree. I'm curious, do you think that, with that, do you think we'll get that, or do you think we'll get something that's more like modular based, right? Plot this in instead of like more freeform the way No Man's Sky is?
Personally, I do think it'll be a modular thing. Similar to No Man's Sky, purely from the perspective that if I was going to do it, that's the way I'd do it personally. So I think it'll probably be like that. One of the big things about Frontier is the Cobra engine. So it's the engine that Elite is built on. It's the engine that I just want to call it
Jurassic
the Zoo
Park,
game.
Zoo World,
Planet
Zoo.
Yeah, every internal build game that Frontier produce uses a version of the Cobra engine. Elite at the moment is one of the older versions of the engine, is my understanding, but it is still the Cobra engine. And they have a real policy of cross-pollinating. So technology from... I'm terrible. I don't want to call it the Zoo game because that seems really disrespectful, but I just can't remember. Planet Zoo. Thank you. So,
it's Planet Zoo, Planet Coaster, Planet Dinosaurs, Planet
Dinosaurs.
Planet Dinosaurs. Yeah. So all the Planet games, you're going to see that technology coming into Elite Dangerous. Absolutely, hands down. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just makes commercial sense if nothing else, right? So I do think you're going to see that stuff. I think it will be modular. I think you'll have little components that you can buy in game for in-game money that you'll then plot down on the planet, and then I think Frontier will be more than happy to sell you skins and pot plants and TVs and I don't know, furniture sets and chairs and whatever you want to to carry on funding the machine forward. I personally think that's what you're going to see, and I think you'll probably be able to go to a degree. I reckon you'll be given a plot of planet that you can build on that's, so many squares by so many squares, and you can populate that with whatever you want. What functionality that base then gives you, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. But
do you remember the old LaveCon interview that Scott Manley did with David Braben, where they talked about the idea, and David Braben's words were something along the lines of like, yeah, if you had this inflatable module that you could just fill up your ship with, it would take up the whole cargo, but you drop it on a planet and then it sort of expands out like a, I don't know, bouncy castle or something, and turns into a base.
Yeah, and there are already inflatable modules on planet surfaces. I was at Dav's Hope the other day, and some of that is a sort of almost semi-temporary inflatable style building. So that's absolutely that's absolutely a possibility.
And at the end of the day, commercially, don't they have to actually, they surely they must have a massive finger on the pulse of what No Man's Sky and Star Citizen are doing, because they must know their competitors. They can't be that dull that they don't know exactly what the market wants.
It's a weird situation, isn't it? Because they're different games, but they're also the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got to be aware of that stuff.
I'd like to think they were, but when Star Citizen, I think it's like I think the whole thing is a mess. They haven't done anything aside from the Carrack recently that I would consider even that was good. And the Carrack, everything, the videos I've been watching out of the Carrack were simply amazing, but it's still not a game. There's still nothing there to actually play.
Star Citizen's such a weird one, because if you look at Elite, they kind of, the way it was built, it's kind of like get the core experience nailed, right? Get that right, which is flying around in your spaceship, fighting, trading, exploring. That and then they add to that later on, and they put in SRVs and planetary landings or whatever, and then it looks like we're getting space legs and base building, and they iterate on the core experience. But the core experience they nailed pretty much straight out the gate. Star Citizen, and I'm not a great producer in the games industry, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but it just seems to be trying to do absolutely everything all at the same time and not doing any of it really solidly yet. And that, to me, seems an odd way to go, particularly if your product's going to go public right from the off. So it's any game when you first create it is a buggy mess. They all are, right? But to try and create the entire game right from the start, all the different modules, all at the same time. So the first person, the ship flying, the combat, the exploration, the mining, everything, all at the same time, and throw it out to the public before it's ready, just gives you the impression of this great big buggy mess.
Star Citizen to me reminds me of a thing that I've seen over and over. I don't have enough inside knowledge into the games industry to have a history of it from there, but I've seen it in the movie industry, in the entertainment's, putting out a big blockbuster movie where you have a guy that's like this genius director, and he makes like 2 or 3 movies that everyone says like, this guy is off the charts genius. He is the next, he's the second coming. He's the new Spielberg. He's whatever. And what it is it's a guy who's like a really, really talented director and is working under a good producer who's the real boss. The producer, the director isn't the boss of a movie. The producer, the main producer, they add 10 other producers that are just bullshit titles in contracts, but there's always one real producer who's the boss, and he's the guy that signs the checks. Yeah. And you have this guy who made these great movies or whatever, and they say, well, look, the studio believes in this guy so much, they're handing over the reins to him. He's now going to be the director and producer of the movie. Go. And what ends up happening then is you end up with a complete clusterfuck of like what happened, because you need to have your genius in order to make something worth watching, but you need to have somebody above that genius who actually writes the checks, who tells them, nah, mate, that part's done. Move on to the next fucking thing. Yeah. We got to get this product out on a calendar date. Absolutely. You see it time and time again. I think it happened with the Wachowski brothers on the Matrix movies, and it happened with Peter Jackson as well. Like Peter Jackson did Lord of the Rings, and it was amazing and great. And so they went, here you go, here, have all the money in the world. Now go and do whatever you want. And then he produced King Kong, which is kind of, it's okay, but it's a 3-hour movie, I think, and the first hour and a half is a boat. It's, ugh. So it'd be nice to think that Frontier are doing that now then, surely, in that, they've pulled the reins on everything to actually get it right. Yeah. And just kind of, I like the way, it's frustrating because you do want everything all at once, but I like the way Frontier work in so much as it's kind of like, get that right, then move on, get that right, then move on. As much as I want atmospheric landings and space legs tomorrow. Apart from September that they didn't get right at all. Oh, yeah, September. They didn't apply the tactics in there, did they? There's clearly been some sort of problem internally, which they've put the brakes on and gone, right, hang on a minute. Everybody take a step back and try and get it right again. Well, I think September was a disaster. In fairness for them, I agree with you 100% on that point. I don't in any way detract from what you're saying. I look at it in fairness to them, though. I think what we're seeing here is a company. So this started as a very small company that was doing work for other people. And then they had this Kickstarter passion project that we're like, hey, we're going to make our own thing. And they did. And they had that sort of Apple computers back when, what's that guy? Not Wachowski. What's his name?
The other one.
Wozniak, Steve Wozniak.
Yeah.
That when Steve Wozniak was basically working out of a garage and was whatever, they had that feel of like, hey, we're the small plucky upstarts and we're doing whatever. And over the course of the years of Elite Dangerous being out, they have morphed and grown into this. Suddenly, they are the largest employer in all of the United Kingdom from the like game developer category. So that's sort of a huge shift to go from this like, hey, we're a small team, we all know each other, it's the 8 of us, and it's like, okay, it's me and these 4 guys, and then these three ladies, and we're kind of all in tight contact, and we're sitting around programming in the middle of the night and having beers and sharing a pizza. To now they've got the huge that office building looks like something that NASA would have.
Cambridge Science Park, yeah.
What they got now, over 400 staff, haven't they?
Over 500, I think.
Okay,
they just passed the 500 mark within the last month or two. But so the point that I'm making is that. And the number of projects they have going, and they have another internal, their own IP thing that is still hush hush that they're working on, and they have another product that sort of got leaked, I think, but is not yet confirmed that's coming out soon. That's a huge shift in like how a company works, and that's going to have some growing pains that come along with it. And I think we've definitely seen, with regard to the leak, with regard to the situation of sort of last September and the ARCS implementation, whatever, we have seen some stumbles that are not the kind of thing that it's like, well, this company is doomed, it's dead, it's whatever, but it's for sure not something they haven't been putting their best foot forward with regard to some stuff. And also this change, this period of change has brought with it a different in mindset, where if you look at the early days, the Kickstarters, and you had a lot of David Braben, which you do not see him anymore. Now he's sort of he's a little bit more like one of those communist dictators who you get information about and you're not sure, like, hey, is this guy alive?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I haven't seen him on camera in a while. Is he or is it the Central Committee is putting out press releases? But so you get, that's a difference. There's definitely a difference in the mindset of how much, like the early days, a LaveCon or an ECM, you could pretty much expect a couple of cheeky leaks or a couple of cheeky announcements or quotes of things where people would be like, holy crap. Now it's a little different. They definitely have gone from, in the old days, they had sort of an open roadmap situation that they actually published at one point. They have like a 10-year roadmap, and they're sort of on year 1 now, I think. But but there's corporate policies and stuff that come involved and change things, and that leads to some frustration in the community, and that definitely leads to some missteps. But I feel like, and I know people are going to say I'm a Pollyanna or a Care Bear or whatever for saying this, but I feel like
I am now. Go on.
This process, it's coming to a close, and I feel like from the 2020 update on going forward, I think they're kind of, okay, now this is the new way they're doing it, and they have it figured out, and they're ready to move forward. A little less sort of change steppy, a little more like, okay, we have our flow back.
I agree with you, actually. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong at all. I was just thinking while you were saying that as well. I was just thinking, if anybody, because I know, gamers are gamers, right? They'll always be gamers, and they get frustrated, and they'll jump ship, or go and think, oh, I'm done with that. That game's dead, and move on, kind of thing. I do think, like, if anybody is writing off Elite Dangerous this year in particular, I think that's a mistake. Personally, I think Frontier are more than fully invested in it. Still, we have semi-regular contact with Will and the gang every now and then, and there's certainly no drop in enthusiasm from them at all. I think the game is frankly, I know things are difficult at the moment, but honestly, I think this is the most exciting year that Elite Dangerous has ever had. I genuinely feel that it's the stuff that's coming, that we believe is coming, and the way the game's going to move forward. I don't think it's had a more exciting time in its future, with the possible exception of when it first got announced.
And also, I used to work in investor relations, so I went onto their website the other day and had a bit of a snoop through their investor relations presentation. Going forward, they're actually very positive about 2019, funny enough. There's a slight juxtaposition with how the community perhaps feels at the minute.
Yeah, from a corporate perspective.
But from a corporate perspective, it looks really quite rosy and quite promising. So I think that kind of reiterated perhaps everything you've just said on the sort of positive side, I have to say. But yeah, I do also think it's a bit of a make or break year. They've got to get this right ultimately. Otherwise they're going to annoy the community a step too far.
Their star product, and I don't think they're going to do that. Growing pains is absolutely the right word, Colin.
Yeah.
So, Rheeney, I know you're super, super excited for base building, and I know that's definitely the thing you're excited for in the coming update. But with the base building, I think that leads itself much more towards like, okay, you have this. There's two ways you go with it. It's either simply a vanity item, which I don't think will be the case, or this now has to serve a function. And those functions, there's only 3 functions that I see right off the bat. The first is storage, the second is resource gathering, and the third is production. So either when you have a building, you either put stuff in it, you use it like as in, it's an automated system where it's like, okay, this is a mining station or something on a planet side, and then you get it ramped up, you get it going, and then over X amount of time, it just starts passively producing product. And then the third is, like I said, the production side of bring all this ore and bring this stuff here, and then go get those blueprints, and now you can create with your ore and your components and your whatever that you've delivered here, you're creating, resistors or some other, high grade polymers or something, and then take that and ship it off somewhere to sell it. Those things all bring all 3 of those things that I just said, and please correct me if you can think of another one that would come in there and for sure add it, but all of those would basically lead it going down the sort of route of being more Eve-like, as far as, okay, this is going to be more involved with group projects and like things involving the economy and whatnot. What do you foresee coming with base building that could be, interesting, different aspects of gameplay?
Are you firing that question at Rhee?
No, I'm firing at Buur.
Oh, okay.
I'm firing all questions at
both of us.
Rhee's got a look of horror on her face at the moment because Rhee's really excited about base building. Let's just be clear on that. She wants to build a base.
Yeah, just want to build a base, really. I don't know, it's a bit like the way I play Elite. I'm not really bothered about what I do with it. No,
I want to make it look pretty.
Actually, my biggest concern with all of this is in the 2020 release, they better still leave me be able to do third-person camera.
Oh, for sure they will.
I hope so. I very much hope so.
I mean, with regards to functionality of base building, I think absolutely storage needs to be. I don't know about you. I'm desperate for storage.
Absolutely.
I want, not just module storage, but just bits and pieces and odds and sods, and that's driving me nuts, really. With regards to other functionality, my God, I mean, I honestly don't know is the answer to that. I don't know what. I know I want one. But I don't. This might be my bad player moment, but I want a base that looks amazing. Of course. That's my, and hopefully Rhee's going to do that for me because I'm hopeless with stuff like that. I couldn't even tell you what the curtains in this room look like.
It's got to be there for a purpose, though.
It will be there for a purpose, yeah, and there will be gameplay to it. But I suppose my gut feeling at the moment is that there will be gameplay that we don't yet know about that will be added as a result of, or will require you to have a base. If nothing else, if for no other reason, it's a social space. If that's the only reason it's there, I'm fine with that. I would love that, to get the rest of our gang together and say, hey, everybody come around my place, we're going to play snooker or something. That would be brilliant.
So just the vanity aspect route, that has valid, that's absolutely valid as well. Yeah. And I think, Rheeney, what you may be excited for, if I was Frontier, if I was much smarter than I am and was a developer that was looking to do something cool, what I would want to do is test some of that out on a large scale before everyone complains that things are buggy and this, that, and the other. So what I would think to do, being cheeky, would be, let's take fleet carriers, right? And let's add an aspect of base building into fleet carriers so that when the fleet carriers drop, maybe you have like a basic, big, huge, empty, like they've already said, we're not going to fly the fleet carrier. So we're not going to be sort of on the bridge, like aiming it and moving it around. Yeah. But there's nothing to say that you couldn't have on fleet carriers a set of like, okay, we have a set, a piece, or what do you call it? Like an art piece of like, this is sort of the empty basic level. And then you could build it up where it's like, okay, we have a bar, or we have a crew lounge or whatever, and make that modular so that you can add on pieces to your fleet carrier. So imagine 2 months from now, you guys finishing up BPMC. Yeah. I was like,
on our mining carrier.
Imagine you guys finish up a BPMC where everyone flies back to the mining carrier, lands, and then you all go to the bar, the crew lounge or whatever, and you're sitting around. You're sitting around talking about, like, oh man, this happened or that happened or whatever.
That's a nice idea. Is it really bad to be the doubting Thomas in the room? I just don't think fleet carriers are going to have that level of functionality. I wish they would. That'd be a nice surprise if they did.
If not, then I would think that if they're like, hey, we don't have that ready yet because you sort of need elite fleet feet to make that really, really a thing. Yeah, then that's fine. Just add it on, tack it on to the December 2020 update.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I do genuinely think it will that kind of thing will get added further down the line. I don't think it'll be there out the gate. I know Rhee's kind of that opinion as well. Yeah, I think
when it comes to elite feet, do you think that, because one of the things that worry me about getting like elite feet or space legs is like everybody wants, I want to be able to walk around my ship. What I'm worried about is like you look down, you go to the SRV panel, you hit exit ship, and then you just kind of appear outside your ship. I'm worried that that's what we'll get instead of the ability to actually walk around your ship. Do you think we'll get the ability to walk around like the Anaconda and whatnot?
Absolutely. I believe you wholeheartedly that you will. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Have you guys got access to the Elite Dangerous art book, the concept art book?
Yep.
So there's concept art in there that shows commanders floating around inside damaged ships and things like that. I know what you mean about the instantly teleporting outside your ship thing, Ty. That stuff drives me nuts. But if you look on every single ship, the bridges of every ship is very, very well fleshed out, and also they have entry and exit doors on the outside, and they have steps and things like that, and all that. I mean, something like the cutter's a great example. That's got stairs, a lovely sweeping staircase that goes up into the nose. I don't think you'll be able to get to every single nook and cranny in your ship, but I think there'll be a significant portion of the interior space that will be fleshed out, and you'll be able to walk around it or float around it. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think it was the hauler that actually had at one point it actually had a separate gangway that you could actually deploy, and I think they took that out somewhere in the beta. They did that, but it's actually the vet that does not have any exterior hatchways aside from the cargo hatch and the fighter bay.
That makes perfect sense, though. That makes perfect sense that they wouldn't. I wouldn't put a hatch on a vet either. When you look at what it is, if I were to design a vet and say, okay, I'm going to deploy troops from it, what I would have, because it needs to be more secure as a large military vessel, that you don't want to worry about being boarded. So if you have a gangway there, that means that you could have people running up it and assaulting your ship. What I would do for a vet would be more like the way they have the landing. I don't want to say landing, but the way they have those. If you remember the movie that they just did, was it First Contact or whatever? The one with Amy Adams and whatever, where I would have Arrival. There you go. For the vet, what I would have would be a big sort of square that was marked off with yellow and black warning all across. You walk onto that square, and then you hit the button to deploy, and then a straight like elevator levels down from the very middle of it, and from there, those troops can deploy without. There's no way at that point for anyone outside or anything, whether it's Thargoids or enemy troops, to then gain access to the ship. Like literally your jump master or quartermaster for the ship has to deploy and then retract the pad. So if he looks down and sees anything he doesn't like, it's not coming up into the ship.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you got any worries there, Ty, honestly. I really don't.
I think if anything, you're going to see that some of the big ships, like the vet, get a special sort of troop deployment possibility that, like I just described, that is going to make you happy. Like I get why you're frustrated when you want to jump into your SRV or your SLF and you hit the button and it just throws you in there. But you have to keep in mind that that's because they don't have elite feet right now. If they have,
I get that.
Of course, that's going to be, there would have to be an option. I definitely foresee, the process being that it's like, okay, I'm going outside of the ship. You hit the button to stand up or whatever. Now your character stands up out of the chair, and now it brings up a different control suite. You walk to the back. Like Burgess said, every cockpit at the back of it has at least one door, even on the small ships. Most of the big ones have two. You walk to the back of one of those doors. It's going to lead you to a hallway. That hallway is going to lead you to several doorways. And one of those doorways is going to be an elevator or a whatever that then puts you off the ship.
And hasn't Space Legs always been kind of on the road? It's been on the roadmap for a long, long time.
Before it launched, it was on there. So
surely every stage they've had to sort of, it's always been there in the back of their mind and as part of the planning that eventually it has to be accommodated in whatever shape or form. So if it's been there on the roadmap since day one, then surely what we see now has still had that plan behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just kind of think back to the what was it called? There was a point where one of David Braben's original things, they were talking about how they designed all the ships with interiors from the get go, and that makes perfect sense. But I know somebody, and I can't say any names, but I know somebody who works in he works for Riot, which makes League of Legends and all that, and he used to work for Blizzard. And I was talking about him and this 2020 update and all that, and I was excited about Space Legs and stuff. And he said, I'll just tell you right now, from a developer point of view, the size of those ships, if they had 3 years to make them, they wouldn't have enough time. And by all reports, they've only been working on this thing for 18 months, and that worries me a little bit. That's talking about the teleport thing, and don't get me wrong, I love Frontier and I love what they do, but they kind of have a history of doing what I call half measure.
Yeah.
Where and that's what I mean. Like 4 people in a wing, and you can't multi-crew. That feels half measured to me. And I worry if they're going to put in Space Legs and all that it's going to be a half measure where we can't walk around the ship or something, or we'll get it later at some point, 5 more years down the road or something. And that worries me.
I think all of it. I mean, knowing what little we do about Frontier and the experience we've had with them since Elite Dangerous launched, that everybody's got a degree of anxiety like that. I know I have as well. At the end of the day, I suppose it'll be what it is. But I do know for a fact that they've designed the ships and thought about the interior spaces right from the off. It's been part of their design process. To give thought to that interior space and how you would move around through it. So I can't see at this point that they wouldn't include it. Indeed, the Mamba concept art, I don't know if you saw that from from a week ago. Right? So that to me looks like an engineering station.
I completely agree.
I think not only does it look that way, but I think that them putting that there was not in it. They knew what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure, mate. Absolutely. That was a very contrived and very controlled and very deliberate look at this. It was like boring exterior, oh, what's this? It was,
Yeah.
they know what they're doing.
And see, I've also been in the mindset that if we hadn't have got that leak, that I feel like they'd be trickling information out to us because they have a history of doing that anyway.
Yeah.
But I think that leak really, really screwed us over as a community, to be honest with you. I don't think it did us any favors.
Quite possibly, mate, yeah.
If the person who was involved in that leak or anyone who knows the person who's involved in that leak is listening to this, please pass on to them. Don't do that anymore, please. Thanks.
Yeah.
It was Rheeney. I know the truth.
Wow.
All my undercover secrets come out.
One of your honky donks went in and got it.
It's definitely not Rheeney, and you can tell that I can prove that it's not Rheeney because if it was Rheeney, the entire leak would have been about, look at how this looks, look at how that looks.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
There's even a honky donk picture on the inside of your ship. Wow.
Right on. So circling back to the idea of, the 2020 paid update, we've covered the base building, we've covered the elite feat. What else do you see potentially being on there? He said, completely crossing his fingers for some form of more something that brings us closer along the lines of atmospheric landings.
Okay, yeah, I got some very specific thoughts in that direction.
I really want them.
I've got obviously no evidence whatsoever that anything else is even included in there. However, the community for ages has been barking about more stellar phenomena, so things like comets, for example. I would love to see things like that. Yeah, rogue planets. Just more stellar phenomena in there, just regular stuff that you're used to seeing in the real world kind of thing. And also scooping as a very initial start, scooping from things like gas giants or entering the upper atmospheres of gas giants. I would not be at all surprised if that made an entry, and even the very start of atmospheric landings, in so much as certain planet types that have got very thin atmospheres and no sort of indigenous llamas walking around or anything like that. I would not be at all surprised if we started seeing stuff like that as well. A lot of the planets that you land on now have got like a very thin dust layer, some more than others. I know we often get quite excited when we see a planet that's got a sort of I don't want to say an atmosphere, but there's a
that haze
surrounding. There's that
haziness.
haze to surroundings. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we started to see more of that. And did you notice, by the way, in the 2017 announcement they made about fleet carriers, they also mentioned ice worlds and improvements to ice worlds. Right, that went dead quiet as well, and we've heard nothing about it since. I think there was some sort of rethink done around that, as like, well, if we're revamping ice worlds, why are we not revamping everything else along with it? Because they would then sit at odds with the existing planisphere, I want to say, if that's even a word. So that the pantheon of planets that they've got at the moment, they would all look kind of similar. They're all variations on a theme. If you suddenly put very different ice worlds in there, that's gonna sit at odds with everything. So I don't know. I think you might see some sort of upping of the quality of the terrain right across the board. And as I say, I wouldn't be at all surprised if you started to see the introduction of very thin atmospheres as well. And lava worlds, please, lava worlds. I want lava worlds.
Yes.
Did I mention lava worlds?
Okay, enough already. I gotta ask. I gotta stop your nonsense to ask you a question. Commander Burt, can you tell us your thoughts on lava worlds?
Mustafa is what I want.
Nice. So, I'm super excited for all of that. I'm super excited for the different gameplay aspects that you could put in there with scoopable gas giants. It occurs to me that we don't know yet the manner in which we're going to obtain fuel for our capital ships.
No.
And gas giants, I think, would be an awesome way to do that, as would having something mined from those asteroid belts that's currently just see no love and have no use, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've no reason to believe that this is a thing, but can you imagine jumping your carrier into the upper atmosphere of a gas giant?
That'd be great, man.
Opening the fuel scoops, sucking in a load of stuff from around and then jumping out again. Wouldn't that be amazing? But I don't think for one moment that's going to happen.
Or just jumping in and scooping it from your ship and then taking it back. See, like, here's another thing. People have assumed, based on the fact that the Gnosis jumps wherever, that the fleet carriers will be able to do this. And I don't think that that's a valid assumption, because, I mean, I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but I will point out that the Gnosis has a flight plan on the Canon Discord that is set up months in advance that they have to notify Frontier about. And then they give specific coordinates of where they would like. And then Frontier has to figure out a way to make it happen. And they have a bespoke sort of targeting system or what have you for the Gnosis. Yeah. We're not going to have that. So there's nothing to say that fleet carriers are necessarily going to be able to go to any particular planet. It might be that fleet carriers jump to the nadir jump point, or there's two the nadir
Lagrange
and
point.
the
Lagrange points.
It may be that they jump to a point that's basically sort of very close to the star, and then they stay there, and then from there you deploy your ship and go wherever you would like in the system. So, but if that's the case, then yeah, maybe you just go out in your ship with a new module and then go out there. Or, God forbid, this could be awesome, but what if you had a special mining SLF that had a tether on it, and you had to fly your, let's say you flew a cutter or a Type 9 into a very, very, very low orbit that was like right on the outer atmosphere of the gas giant, and then you deployed a special SLF that had a huge tether, and the SLF just had a scoop. That's all it had. It scoops and it's funneling stuff up through that tether back to your ship. And then there's some sort of engaging gameplay where you have to like move around and you're dodging areas that are more or less like pressure filled, so that your ship doesn't get crushed or whatever, but you're trying to, some interactive mini game there that could turn it into something cool.
I almost certainly think you'll see some sort of mini game. Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't actually considered that refueling your carrier might come from gas giants, but that is entirely possible.
Yeah, or like I said, or some special thing that you do in the asteroid belts. Those would be two cool ways to do it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what sort of quality of life upgrades do you guys want? Either out of the
maps. Oh
God, yes.
I want to. Okay, so straight off the top of my head, I want to organize the bookmarks on the galactic map. That just drives me bananas. I want folders, and I want to be able to. I don't know what you guys do with your bookmarks on the galactic map at the moment, but I have to put A's and stars and things like that in the front of them to kind of keep them top, and I want to be able to organize that. I don't think for one moment this is coming, but I'd like to be able to manage my squad from a web interface. That would be really nice, just so that if it's kind of 9:30 in the evening and I'm watching a bit of telly on the sofa, and someone wants to join the squadron or whatever, or
don't have to come back upstairs and turn your game on. Actually, you have to do it from in game.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to do that kind of thing, from a simple web interface.
I'd be happy if you can multi-crew a wing. I'll stop my moaning if that happens.
Yeah, that as well. I mean, multi-crew and wing need to be all homogenized and part of the same system. They're very clearly different systems at the moment. And
could you get your SRV out if you're a multi-crew?
Yeah,
that would be nice.
That's an easy question for us, that one, isn't it? Honestly, yeah. that stuff, really sort that out.
I'll give you another one for free, Rheeney. How about this? We can buy for ARCs. We can buy paint jobs to do cool stuff with the outside of our ship. Yeah. And we can buy for ARCs cool little bobbleheads to put on our dashboard. But we spend all of our time inside of our cockpit. Why can we not buy for ARCs different like paint schemes or color schemes or different kind of custom custom sort of design cockpit internal stuff that would be, hey, it costs this much ARCs or whatever. But I all the time am looking from the inside of my cockpit. If I could get the inside of my, let's say for some reason I'm this huge Imperial fanboy and I want the inside of my Core Dynamics ship to have more of like a theme that looks a little more like a Clipper or a Courier or something.
Yeah.
That's a way where it's just like, hey, FDev, shut up and take my money. Here's free money. Have some.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
They need to start thinking more like that. They really, really do.
And the other one that I suggest, this all comes back to a letter that I wrote into Ty, which is why I'm actually on this show to begin with, a list of suggestions. And the thing is, I think they should put, it's super easy if they were to put a say on their website on the ARC store or whatever, put a very, very simple version of like MS Paint or whatever on there that has the plugs for all the different ship types. And you can say, okay, I want to make a custom paint job, right? You take the time, you put it in there, and then the community votes on which ones they like or whatever. And if you want a custom paint job, so if you were to have like a Burr Pit design contest on your Discord, everyone like puts what they think could be like their design for the Burr Pit paint job, then you get together, you say, okay, we vote this up, you submit it to Frontier, they look over it. It literally could be something that it would definitely take an hour a day or something for someone to look over it just to make sure you don't have a penis or or because I mean, yeah. So okay,
first thing you would do is cock and balls.
No penis and no like swastikas or anything. But then say like, okay, yes, you can have that paint job, and the paint job it's going to cost you, I don't know, whatever. Make it double the norm. It's going to cost you 5,000 ARCs. Sure. People would gladly, if they could fly the Burr Pit colors, or if they could fly the Loose Screws podcast, or the Lave, or the Down to Earth astronomy symbol. If people could put their ownership of that, they would gladly pay good money to FDev to be able to do that. And then also FDev could run a thing where it's like, hey, here's the contest of the ones that have been submitted this month, and whoever hey, the top 5 people out there who like they have a cool design. Maybe it's not Burr Pit or Loose Screws. Maybe it's just like a cool star design or a cool whatever. And people could vote on it. And it's like, hey, you're the winning guy. Here's 10,000 ARCs. Knock yourself out. It's free money. It doesn't cost us anything. But you throw that out there in their every week, the little email they send you out that says like, here's these new paint jobs. If every week they included one from the community and someone did like a really cool, something that looks like a moon, or something that looks like a Thargoid, or something that looks like a Ashling Duval, or whatever. I think that would create a ton of engagement of people saying, oh, I got to get that one this week. It's only around this week. And then, and here, have some of my money.
I think you could do that a lot simpler, get the same effect, and just allow people to upload or create their own decal to put on the side of the ship. I was going to say, I
mean, surely having your faction decal or your PMF decal, I mean, you should be able to have that.
The only thing is that does require them to take time to make sure it's not a swastika or a penis.
Sure.
Some sort of approval process.
Penis.
Yeah.
A swastika penis. Best of
Okay, wait a second. A swastika made out of penises.
Oh my God! You're really upping your game there, Kai. You're really bringing it. Well done, buddy.
I think that perfectly sums up my feelings on Trump.
You must be so proud of him.
Damn.
I'm not. In fairness, and just in case anybody's listening to this and you're a snowflake that gets triggered because you're a right-wing snowflake or a left-wing snowflake, I hate all of our politicians on both sides. So
equally,
it's completely equal.
Useless. They're all rubbish.
Yeah.
Didn't they have a thing outside? Sorry, I was going to say, wasn't there a thing? I remember in the back of my mind somewhere that they had outside of the game. People used to submit paint job ideas.
They have had competitions before to submit paint jobs, and also they had the design and advert thing on the outside of the outside and interior of space stations.
Why don't they do that anymore?
So a lot of those were designed by the community.
Yeah, which is why they've got the bucket ball.
Manpower overhead internally to sort what they've done and make sure it's correct.
Honestly, though, if they just did that MS Paint idea and, like you said, just had okay, I'm going to submit this and I'm willing to pay triple the amount of a normal paint job. Literally the job pays for itself. You print money. You're just printing money.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just say this. They have a store on their website where you can design your own hoodie. And why we can't design our own paint job is beyond me. But the thing that rubs me the wrong way the most is, why do I pay so much money for the outside of my ship that I barely see, and I cannot paint the inside of the damn thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Missed just opportunity. Personalize it. I mean, you just want to be able to,
missed opportunity.
You know, and people always on any game will always pay good money to personalize stuff, to customize stuff. That's surely one of the basic fundamentals that gamers do.
Okay. What about this?
Come on.
Go ahead, Kyle.
What about you just render a little 3D model or whatever, and then you say, okay, here for X amount of dollars, you could have a Burr Pit bobblehead.
Oh, please.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I'm in. and I'll tell you something else too. Like, you know, we talk about interiors. You can change the color of your HUD, but it changes the color of everything on your HUD. So
it changes everything.
You have to kind of get used to, you know, the way that everything's kind of like for instance, like the red enemy squares all of a sudden become, you know, they become what's it called? Like purple or something. Like they actually change color with it. It drives me insane. Why can't we just edit certain elements of the HUD? Or, you know what? I'll pay $20 for a freaking, you know, different, like, give me a black HUD or something. Or not black HUD. That doesn't make any sense. But you guys see what I'm
saying. But for sure, who's to say, like, there are colorblind people, who's to say that people wouldn't say, like, hey, I want triangle to be this gun points are deployed or whatever, and I want it turns into an X if it's a marked target, or a 1. Like if I'm out there with the squad and I'm saying we're killing this 1, 2, 3, I should be able to mark them, and it should show up as like 1, 2, 3 on the little, you know, on the little HUD thing, on the little radar screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Like the idea of having customization for all of the things on the HUD and things in the cockpit. These are and like with the paint jobs, all of these different things we've come up with. There's so many things that the community has come up with where it's like, hey, FDev, I swear to God, if you put a guy or two or a gal or two on this job or that job, the revenue that you will earn will by order of magnitude be, you know, more than compensate what you're putting out for this.
It's really, really simple as well. Like the BPMC, didn't they? Do you remember this the other night? Was it University said it, or Rod Norris said it? The BPMC guys really want to be able to colour their limpets.
Yeah.
Right. It's a really simple thing. Yeah. It's such a simple thing. You know, I'm sure someone at FDev could do that in an afternoon. You know, but then they'd be able to, because you know, you've seen what that video's like.
Especially when you're mass mining.
There's what, I don't know, 100 limpets all moving all at the same time, and just to be able to see what ones are yours and where they're going and what they're doing, you know, that would just be funny and useful.
Do you think there's any chance, because if they're ploughing every single resource they've got at the moment and every single member of staff into the 2020 update and fleet carriers, that's going to happen, that's going to be done, surely that's going to free up an awful lot of significant man hours. Maybe they might come back to the less serious stuff, the store, the more cosmetic stuff.
Right? That's their business model going forward, surely. So they've got to. You know, obviously 2020 is a paid expansion, but then after that, you've got to carry on funding the game. And
I'm a very big believer that after the 2020 update, we're going to start seeing their entire pay model change from what it is to where they're going to lean more on that store. I don't know what their revenue income is on that store is, but it's got to be decent.
Well, I bet it's good, mate. Yeah, I bet it's really good.
I think it's quite significant, isn't it?
So the one thing that people aren't keeping in mind when we talk about, like, well, after the 20 paid update, you know, that's going to free up a lot of this, that, and the other. Like, yeah, limpets, for sure, it's a no-brainer. I would love to see. Cockpit, for sure, it's a no-brainer. I'd love to see. But what I can guarantee you're going to see right up front in the first 6 months or so is everyone that's not nailed down generating new different outfits and stuff. Because when you have players that can now run around, they want snazzy outfits. I want something that looks like a Battlestar Galactica outfit, or I want something that has more of a Han Solo vibe or whatever.
Absolutely.
obviously there's going to be copyright concerns that they can't directly copy stuff, but you're going to see all kinds of. I think you're going to see thousands and thousands of different jackets and boots and helmet combinations and power armor and all kinds of stuff.
Gun skins and everything. Yeah.
If you remember the old RPG Rift, the pen and paper RPG Rift, I would love to see some sort of like a glitter boy, like a mini power armor, or from BattleTech where you had the clans, they would come in, when the clans came back to reinvade the Inner Sphere, they had those I forget those little armor outfits that they had, but it even exists in the EDRPG. They have power armor.
Oh right,
outfits.
Okay. Have you guys played that? Sorry, just to get you off piece for a moment. Have you played the EDRPG at all?
I have no one to play it with, but I've looked at all the stuff and lusted after it.
Okay, yeah.
To kind of give you an idea, I've actually been kicking around starting up a separate podcast where we get together and just play the EDRPG, but I haven't got everything together yet. So.
That's a good idea.
That's
a really good idea.
And if anybody listening is like, I would love to hear the EDRPG played, for sure, get a hold of Ty when he gets that spun up. But if you want your fix right now, check out Guard Frequency, because every week's episode, they have a snippet of an EDRPG session.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Okay.
They have for quite a long time. So every week when I listen to their show, so what they do is I think they record like a 2 or 3 hour session, play it, and then they take out and cut out like 5-minute snippets, and they just throw that in the middle of the show.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Okay. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of the stuff with regard to the 2020 paid update and what you're looking forward to. We've covered, is there anything else, by the way, on that 2020 update? I know you said about the gas giants. Me personally, I cannot wait for them to get moving along that line of like more atmospheric landing, more stuff. You have Planet Zoo, which procedurally generates planets and or not planets, but like landscapes. You have they also procedurally generate flora and fauna. I know that it would be, I'm not in any way saying like, well, it's easy, flip a switch, but like it's going to require a massive amount of like storage and computing power and whatnot. But in theory, you could use everything they've developed with Planet Zoo and Planet Jurassic
Dinosaurs.
World. Yeah, Planet Dinosaurs. You could use those to create run that through the procedural generation engine with Stellar Forge, and you could turn quite a few planets that, the ones that are Earth-like worlds, for sure the ones that are out there that are not like, Earth and Lave and whatever, that's different. You're going to have to create some cities and stuff. But the other ones, the ones that are out there when you're out exploring and you find a brand new Earth-like world, there is no reason at all that they could not, run that through and create a situation where you are landing on a planet and there are, even I get, okay, animals, maybe take that for later, but just plant life and streams and rivers and canyons and valleys and oceans and whatever. I would love to see that. And I would love to see something with water worlds. I would love to see an SLF that you deploy that is actually, has sort of like a submarine capability. And now you're out there and exploring and gathering resources, minerals and stuff from at the bottom of a Marianas Trench on some world, 8,000 light years away from Earth.
I mean, I've got absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Frontier, if they put their mind to it, and I'm sure there are probably projects internally that are doing this right now, I'm absolutely positive that if they put their mind to it right now, they could do that tomorrow, right? They're completely capable of that. Braben, if nobody else in that company can do it, Braben is a very clever man.
For sure.
But what, an operation like Hello Games that is much, 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 much smaller has already done all that. The problem comes not so much in doing that, but not making it look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you procedurally generate particularly animals. You've got to have them look believable, which obviously means creating rule sets and and then getting enough variation in that rule set to get differentiation across the different planets that they're completely capable of doing that. But doing that and then not having it look dumb as hell is the I believe is the real challenge personally.
But there's no reason why the 2020 update couldn't actually be space legs plus the atmospheric landings, take out things like animals and all the complicated stuff like that. The Thargoids come in and wipe out Sol, which solves that problem. So you get rid of the actual Earth.
There's no reason why it couldn't be that. My gut feeling is that they probably wouldn't do that. I don't think they'd have all these Earth-like worlds that you could visit, and then 5 years from now, all of a sudden, all those Earth-like worlds have suddenly got animals. I just don't think they'd. Just my gut. I don't think they'd do that. But
well, if they were to give us,
they could if they wanted to. Yeah.
If they were to start off with, even if it's a process where it's like, okay, so another quote that was taken from this one from an investor meeting where David Braben made the quote that this update will see a quote significant refresh of the underlying software engine. So to me, what I'm seeing is, or what I'm hoping for, is that they clear up a lot of the spaghetti code and put it sort of right in a position where you're going to get some new stuff with the 2020 paid update, but even more exciting, you're going to have them cleaned up and ready to go forward in a better position to put out stuff they're not having to fight every step of iterative code.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Make getting stuff into the engine much quicker.
Yeah.
As well. And I definitely think that's got to be part of the 2020 project. Yeah. They'd be mad not to do that.
So, what I think we're going to end up seeing as a result of this is not only some new sexy, splashy shit in December and January and February that it's like, okay, that happened, but also 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, still payoffs from the back end that you don't see, but that help them to, okay, phase 1 is going to be gas giants. Phase 2 is going to be water worlds. Phase 3 is going to be Earth-like worlds. Phase 4 is going to be terraformable worlds. If you start a process of, saying, okay, this is a terraformable world and we have a player faction and they're moving out there and we've now built X number of units of these buildings of this type. Like here's a type that's a atmospheric scrubber type installation, and here's an installation that is for this, and here's an installation that is for that.
My God.
Who's to say you couldn't see a sort of gradual process of, watching a world get terraformed, which my NASA boner is just off the charts at that point.
That would just be brilliant, wouldn't it? Oh, you got a terraformable world in your player minor faction, and you dropped an atmospheric processor on it, and then started to scrub it, as you say. That'd be brilliant. I have seen that film, by the way, and it didn't end well. So,
well, this could be the moment. This could be the moment that Planet Buur is conceived.
We've got all our baboons to worry about. That could be fun. We have to house all them first.
Yeah.
True. Fair enough. Oh, man.
There's got to be there has to be a long-term roadmap. I mean, because of the leak, we're just so focused on 2020, but fly on the wall, they're long-term, next 10, 15, years is, who can tell? There's no reason why it wouldn't be everything that you just said.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would absolutely love that. So we've talked about all of those. Now let's talk about timelines. Let's hear your guesses. I'm sure you guys have already heard my guesses, but just as a real brief sum up, I'm thinking literally next Thursday we get the teaser saying like, hey, we will be announcing. I think what I would love to see is the teaser next Thursday, and the teaser say that here's what's happening in March. There's going to be a second round of bug fixes, so we're going to see some more of that on April 11th at the ECM. We're going to drop the actual full trailer with all of the details on fleet carriers, and fleet carriers will be landing in early to mid-June. Then at LaveCon, July 4th and 5th and 6th.
That's right.
Yeah, and on July, for LaveCon, I would love a teaser trailer, just a brief teaser of the 2020 paid update, and then have them pull, you and some of the community bigwigs aside, the same way that they did, what they did with the mining thing with the core asteroids, to give you guys a little sneak peek and have you sign NDAs and get feedback, and then the full real trailer on the 2020 update with all kinds of details. Launch it at GDC, or is it not GDC? It's Gamescom.
Gamescom.
The one that they do. That's where they like to. That's where they seem to really like to drop their flagship shit.
Yeah.
And then the 2020 paid update dropping in December. So that's my sort of prediction for like the roadmap of whatever. Let's hear your guys'.
Sounds like a perfect roadmap. I would say.
I was going to say we've had a very similar conversation in this house that basically went along those lines. I don't think
you don't think it's next Thursday, though, do you? You're a bit skeptical about.
I'm a bit skeptical about us getting any seriously big details next Thursday. Might happen, but I don't know why, but my gut is telling me that we probably won't hear anything terribly massive.
So what do you think? It's going to drip through March? We're going to get.
I think it'll probably be, if it's March, it'll be the end of March. I think personally.
So here's what I was thinking. I was literally thinking though that in March I think they're gonna do in March another round of bug fixes. So in which case that would probably, so Monday's live stream that they canceled is completely understandable. They were just coming off of working for 24 hours plus straight.
Yeah.
But Thursday's live stream that they canceled, I get that like everyone in England has the flu right now, but I don't think that's what it was. I think they were like, we're not doing one because we're prepping for the big one next week. That's maybe just my hopeful thinking.
I think I suppose it's quite telling that for the coming Thursday live stream, they haven't said that it won't be something.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
What they, so if they do announce anything on Thursday, I think I think you were bang on when you started mentioning, more bug fixes and betas. I think we're due another one of those more sooner than anything else, really. My gut feeling is that towards the end of March, we might start hearing the very first hints of carrier details. Again, I don't think there'll be a massive reveal, but there might be something. It would be nice to think that the ECM guys got some kind of reveal at their venue, which we're going to, by the way. And then I definitely think that something at LaveCon. Yeah,
they always do at LaveCon.
Yeah, they always do something at LaveCon.
Will be something.
And we're going to that as well. So
yeah. You're gonna have a bunch of people there. I love the Hutton truckers. So if anything that can happen that breaks nice for the Hutton truckers just puts a smile on my face.
I'll tell you what, we're really, really excited about meeting Pete Wotherspoon. We can't wait to meet Wotherspoon.
I'm jealous of you, man. I'm jealous of you.
We go around hugging everything, shouting across the room when we see the orangey feeder.
I love Galnet News Digest. I just think it's amazing.
Oh, he roasted the shit out of me a couple weeks ago, and it was so good. It was so good. I love it.
He was so good with you. He was really good. It was such a good interview.
Well, I guess we should sort of mention it briefly, that the whole thing, because let's just jump into it and get it over with quick. The whole Gal Knot situation.
Yeah. It's.
Yeah, it's. I tell you what, I liked the way. So when they had the big Galnet revamp, where they took all the, for want of a better expression, the fluff stories out, or the off-camera stuff, I didn't mind that stuff at all. I liked it, but I did find it frustrating that none of it was in game at all. So when they announced the revamp, and it turns out that all the Galnet stuff was then going to be in game, you would be able to go and see it, or there would be an actual quantifiable effect of what you were seeing on Galnet. So when it went that way, I was really happy. I have to say, I was one of the yay sayers. But now that I understand why it's gone away now, and it's not by design. It's by whatever the internal shenanigans are that Frontier has unfortunately had to wrestle with, particularly the last 6 months. It's obviously connected to that, and it wasn't on their plan. It is a dreadful, dreadful, appalling shame, though. It really is. It's such a shame that there's now nothing on it at all. But don't get me wrong, I absolutely feel that it will be back at some point. And when it does come back, I think it will be a lot more relevant than it has been in the past. And if we're right that they're cleaning up their pipeline for getting stuff into the game from sort of 2020 onwards, I think at that point you will really start to see Galnet shine. I hope anyway, fingers crossed. I think that if they're cleaning up their pipeline and making it easier to put new content, even little things into the game, which we all hope they are, I think Galnet at that point will then be amazing.
For sure. I would love to see.
I do miss Galnet, though. I really miss it.
I would love to see, you mentioned going back to in your history with Elite that you played Frontier 2. If you remember in that, you had the 5 in-game newspapers. You had the Federal Times, the Imperial Courier, whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would love to see an expansion of the story stuff to include even some stuff that is like, hey, like I think that would be amazing if you had something like that where it's like, hey, here's stuff with an alliance sort of spin or an imperial spin or a federation spin, and then you could have then your because they had a rag, they had a almost like the Sunday Sport or the whatever, where it's like
Interstellar Inquirer or something like that.
And in something like that, you could put in player generated stuff a little easier with the understanding of people would just look at it and go like, I don't follow that, trash, I whatever. And that way, if something was put in that people they wanted to distance themselves from a little bit of like, well, we don't particularly whatever. It's like, hey, it's out there. It's in the tabloids. It's,
Yeah, just be, I don't read that stuff. Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't think it's relative in that depth at all. But one of the very last things Paige said when she was talking about, she was talking about sort of screenshots and videography, was about having a journalist role being put into the game. I'd love to see that. And then if that played into Galnet somehow, or
that'd be great.
That'd be really cool. I'd like that. That'd be
and you do have people like I'll bring up as an example on the forums. They have moderators. They have unpaid volunteers. So they have people that they do trust to sort of speak with their voice to a certain extent. And I'm sure that has to be looked at and reviewed as well. And I understand that there's a process there. So there's probably an employee in the community management team whose job it is to sort of review what the moderators are saying. But
it's not a huge amount of manpower, though, is it? I mean, it's absolutely doable, surely.
You could take, your trusted moderators or whatnot, and you could sort of implement a similar system with regard to this, to where if you have Sovereign, if you have, Sovereign, Rheeney, Orange, Phoenix, Wotherspoon, and Wotherspoon puts out, he puts out tabloid trashy stories by design that they're funny, but he is a very intelligent, articulate, and respectful, grown-up person who, if he were to submit something to them to put in game, I am positive would be done in a proper manner. So, Sovereign, like I said, you guys, if you were to take some of those submissions from trusted sources within the community, there's no reason that Hutton Truckers, Operation Ida, the Haxcom or AXI. There's no reasons why these groups could not put out press conferences for stuff where it's like, hey, we're doing a special, that Papa Klops, they did a class last week. Hacks did Papa Klops, where it was last Wednesday night at like 9 o'clock my time, Eastern Standard Time, where they taught people the intricacies of anti-Xeno warfare. There's no reason why a group like that, or Alec Turner for the Buckyballers, or Operation Ida guys, why they could not have genuine, kind of something very easy to look over to say, hey, here's an event, here's the details, here's how it works, come join in. Exegius every Monday night in America, every Wednesday night in European time zones, does Sidewinder Slaughter, which is an event designed to take new players at PvP, put them in a stock Sidewinder, and go out there and see some of how PvP battle works. And you get blown up, it costs you $0. It's just a fun, interesting thing you can do. And these are all things that Frontier should absolutely be making use out of to engage their customers, to make more, because the more hours we play, the more arcs we buy. That's just a no-brainer.
Then surely that is the positive thing that came out of your open letter. At the end of the day, they certainly received that positively. They can't be seen, I suppose, publicly to be swayed particularly on the instance by something, but I think they've definitely taken, you can't tell me they haven't taken that. They definitely listened. They definitely heard. It was a really good thing that got back to them through that letter.
Well, not only can they not be quote unquote seen to be swayed by something like this, but they shouldn't really even be swayed by something like this from the standpoint of, as Buur so rightly pointed out, like, they have a budget, they have a plan, they have to execute that. The idea of my letter wasn't to get them to change what they're doing today. The idea of my letter was to get them to change how they allocate the budget in the future, so that they keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
And also the other idea, which I'm retired from the forums now, so I'm just going to say this, like, I get so turned off by all of the negativity and the hostility in the forums. And I feel like, so after my letter came out and got like a lot of positive attention or whatever, I saw this last week, there was another group that put out a letter that was sort of similar to those lines. It was the disaster recovery group.
Right.
And they're like, hey, they didn't come at it with, this sucks and that sucks. They came at it with saying like, hey, we love your game, super awesome. Here's what we focus on, and here's some things we would like you to maybe look at. Here's how you can make rescues from burning stations sort of more dynamic within the game. But it had the same tone. And I have nothing against people who want to express themselves, and I have nothing against people who are upset with the September sort of release of information. But I found that petition that went around, it started by the pilot, and Down to Earth Astronomy was in it, and it started as an actually very positive, like, hey, we have constructive criticism, we love your game, we want to express how we feel. And that thing got hijacked, and it got very dark, and it got
really, really dark. Yeah, by the time.
And it got very, very, very sort of just unproductive, I feel.
Yeah. And definitely the word. Yeah.
What irritates me the most about that is that, like, as someone who signed it, and my voice doesn't carry a lot of weight in this community, but it irritated me that the version I saw was not the version I signed. Or let me rephrase it. The version that was released was not the version I signed. And that irritates the shit out of me. And
so if you were to
spirit of it was, but the actual letter was not. And that's like the core stuff, the stuff that we want to see changed, that's definitely still there. But the way it was written, like, you guys are, assholes. Well, that's, I don't think for one second anybody FTF is an asshole. I mean, there's probably some, because everybody is at some point. But anyway, what I'm saying is, like, I don't think anybody up there is trying to make something that's bad, because they're trying to make something that's going to make them money, because that's their business.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
they seem genuinely. I don't know if the word's pleased, but I mean, they seem genuinely open to getting the constructive criticism back. They've asked quite a few, multiple times on live streams recently, that they're happy to receive that and do take it on board, and are happy for people to put it in, but it's got to be done right.
Yeah, definitely. I think all you managed to do, Kai, basically was word very well. Certainly, what you felt and what you think a lot of other people were probably feeling anyway. But you put it in a constructive, respectful manner. Posted it on a public forum, which is exactly the right way to get feedback to Frontier. And then a load of people jumped on and went, "Yeah, I agree with that guy." And that's all that happened. And then. Your argument was very respectfully constructed, so they're going to read it rather than go, well, they're effing and blinding at me, so why should I bother reading the rest of it? So, for a start, they read it through, took on board what you said, and then they would have seen everybody else underneath going, yep, I agree with him, but here's my slant on it, and here's my slant on it. And for the most part, I think the thread went very well, generally speaking, certainly in the early stages. And that was it. That that's the way, because you are dealing with a massive corporate entity. They deal in toys, but they are a massive corporate entity at the end of the day. And so they've taken the feedback that you and the rest of the community have given them that will absolutely get fed up the chain. Some of it they can do something with, some of it they won't be able to do anything with because corporate reasons. And eventually, I think it'll filter through to the game. It won't happen tomorrow, and it might not happen for a year and a half or whatever. But I think this stuff does get listened to, and it does get taken on board. They can't always act on it, but it does get heard. I think.
So when do we get Garnet back?
Yeah. So
when's it come back?
Yeah. So
I'm in the mindset that we don't get Galnet back because I think they have something bigger planned for 2020. I think they pulled off Galnet and they're like, all right, well, we're not going to give you Galnet because we're working on this, and this is going to be bigger and better than Galnet. Okay, I don't know what that is. Like, ideally, my thought was like some sort of structured, story-driven missions, which I kind of have mixed feelings about, and they kind of rumored about not too long ago, a couple of years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I'm exactly the same with you with that. Really, I'm not anti that, but I'm not horrendously pro it either. I love the fact that Elite is so open ended and so go and do whatever the hell you want. It is literally the whole. Every aspect of the game is one massive sandbox, isn't it? It doesn't pull you by the nose at all through any of it, and I really like that about it. If you were to put in structured, strictly scripted missions, it would start getting away from that and become possibly in danger of becoming something that it isn't. But it depends how it's handled at the end of the day.
Yeah, you have to be very, very careful when you add the story type missions because if you do it, you have to put a massive amount of resources into it so that it feels varied, so that you can have a really in-depth story, but that it's one of like a choose your own adventure book with a million possible outcomes. You don't want it to be a situation where you have 5,000 different triggers that will catch you and then funnel you into one of like 3 hallways, because then everyone has the same experience and it's completely cheapened.
Yeah, completely.
It's not the game.
Absolutely.
It's not what this game is.
Well, I think the closest we've ever had to something like that in the game right now is the Ramtah missions. And they were done pretty well. And if they were to do those kind of the same way and expand on them and give us some cut scenes and stuff kind of mixed in there, I'd be all over that. I'd love that.
That could be cool. Yeah, that could be cool. I suppose it depends on how the cutscenes are delivered as well. At the end of the day, would it? And I don't have an answer to this, but if anything that kind of took me out of the game, showed me something happening, would take me out of the game. But if it threw it up on a monitor in my cockpit, that might be fun, like news footage kind of thing.
Yeah.
Something else too, I think would be pretty cool is if we had like a Galnet actual, not just an audio feed, but some sort of like visual feed on a monitor somewhere. I think that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be lovely. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Also, VR, if I could get Netflix mounted up on a monitor too, that'd be great.
Okay, do you want fries with that? Or
if we're asking for things.
Yeah, plenty of people do that though, don't they? Isn't there some mod you can use that you can?
Yes. Yeah.
I actually got some that does that for me, but it looks like it's out of place. So
I would crash so often if I did that.
If they were to put a sort of Galnet or a I don't know, holo vid HoloVid. That's what they use. So if they were to put a HoloVid screen somewhere on your cockpit, and the in-game reasoning for that was like, this is where you watch your movies or whatever, then all you have to do is go into that custom software for the VR sets and literally just like shrink your VR second screen, your virtual second screen, to that same size, and then just plant it right where that screen is. And now you've got Battlestar Galactica while you're flying to Colonia.
Boom.
Boom, job done.
Boom, shakalak. All right. So I want to ask you guys something, because I know we've been going for a while here, and I want to make sure that I get this in before we wrap up.
Is it to do with honky donks? No,
it does. It does. We're going to get into erotic fanfic about Rheeney and honky donks. Here we go. No, there's a reason why she married a man named Buur. But all right. So let's imagine for a moment that you win the lottery and tomorrow, and now you have 800 million quid, and you donate, or not donate, you invest 400 million quid into FDev, and you're now a major stockholder. And they put you in a room with David Braben, and it's David Braben, Buur, and Rheeney, and the door is locked, and he says, okay, you guys have bought in enough that you get a decent say. What do you want added to the game or whatever? He still has the final, he can final say. So you can't, honky donks can't be a thing that you're going to expect to happen.
Big honky donks.
But it's completely, blank chalkboard. You're working with the genius, and you're going to figure out some stuff. What do you want? What do you want to see?
I've got some very specific ideas, Ree. Do you want to go and...
No, you can go while I think about it.
Or I start rabbling like a baboon. Okay. Well, to be honest, my ideas might not be quite so, outrageous or indeed that far away, to be brutally honest. Right now, the only thing I personally would like to see, and I think this might come with Space Legs, I don't know, is I would like to see a slow-paced, tactical first-person shooter element to the game that, for example, takes me into installations,
generation ships,
generation ships, mega ships, and Thargoid hives, for example, where cover is important and tactics are important, and getting shot or bitten or sprayed with caustic acid is a problem, and that you have to deal with. And I would like to be able to wrap Black Ops in all that as well. That would be. I know that's not terribly ambitious, but that would be me in heaven, quite frankly. Also, while you've got my attention, sorry, and he's off. I would like the first-person shooter side of the game to also be almost a separate product, like CQC used to be. But it can actually dovetail with the main game. So if you've got people that are interested in just playing a spacey first-person shooter, I can load them in the back of a dropship. Those players in the back of a dropship, and they haven't bought Elite Dangerous. They've bought whatever Space Legs is called.
Squad 42.
Yeah, that was actually there's a direct precedent for that. I don't know if you know it or if you played it, but so in EVE they created a game called Dust, which was it was literally an FPS game, and the idea was that people who just bought Dust to play a first-person shooter on their Xbox or their PlayStation were actually part of the sort of background simulation of what was going on in EVE.
Yeah, that kind of thing, but more. So I actually want to see those people sitting in the back of my ship. So they join a queue, for example, to join a game. I fire up my ship and go, I'm available as a transport, and they appear in my ship or walk up a ramp, Ty. I want them walking up a ramp. So they walk up a ramp, they get in my ship, they take their seat, I fly them somewhere, and then I drop them like troops, and then they go off and have their game, and then I fly off and do whatever I want to do. Or I stick around and do gunship kind of close air support, that kind of thing. That for me, I would love that. And if their actions and my actions then tied into power play or the background simulation or something like that, again, that would just be another layer of lovely.
All right.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry.
There was more stuff.
You know that scene in Aliens where Vasquez goes, "Let's rock."
Yep.
That I want that.
Can I say what I'd like?
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I'm really, really definitely not visionary. What I'd like is the basic things. I would really, really want tomorrow. I want cross-platform because I'm fed up of not being able to play with other people that we've got in our Discord. People I want to go out and multi-crew with Commander Exorcist, and I can't because he's on console and on PC.
Yeah,
I want that tomorrow. So cross-platform would be top of my list. Sort the code out so that we can get all this networking and bigger instances and actually make it feel like an MMO as far as I'm concerned. I want that sorted. I would like some more ships because I'm a bit bored of filming all the current ones. I want some more ships because I like looking at them and I want more stuff in there. And the atmospherics, because same again, I'm coming from the sort of scenic videography, photography side. So that would be my wish list. Thank you very much.
Well, you may remember there as well. I don't like the current turret system on the ships that we've got. That exterior camera, I think, is very clever and that, but
it doesn't work.
It's just rubbish.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work
at all. We've tried. It doesn't work.
Star Citizen has you sitting in a turret like a World War II bomber or whatever. That's what people want. The Millennium Falcon, right? They want that. They want that. Here they come scene from Star Wars. No one wants to be outside the ship. That immediately reminds you that you're playing a game. Stop that. Don't do that.
Yeah,
totally agree. And I'll tell you right now, as someone who has shot down a fighter multiple times from a turret, sorry, Krill Rabbit. I can tell you right now, the external turrets work great when you're shooting your own fighters. So.
Great,
really good at that.
Feature.
Yeah, it's great. It works. They work great for that. When we were talking to the pilot months and months ago, he brought up a very good point about the 2020 update. I don't think FDev will do it, but I'm curious what you guys think. His theory is, what if FDev burns the bubble? And by that, what that means is, like, what if they get rid of the majority of stations, and like Thargoids come in and get rid of the majority of the stations, they get destroyed or whatever, so that what's left is, our fleet carriers would be the station, so to speak, and the bases that we build would be the ground bases. What do you guys think about them? Do you think they'll do that? Do you think that that's a good idea?
I think that's entirely possible. When I said earlier on, I think like June, when carriers launch, something bad is coming.
Yeah,
I think that's entirely possible. I said to Rhee years ago now that if you get onto the subject of atmospheric landings, what's the biggest problem you can think of with allowing people to land on Earth-like worlds?
It's making it look like
cities. Yeah, the cities. Yeah,
the cities.
Right. So any planet that isn't Earth, you can put everything, whatever you want, wherever you want, and it'll look like whatever you want. But when it comes to Earth, everybody knows it.
They've got to take it out
intimately.
They have to take it out.
The best way to get rid of that problem, and frankly, the most interesting way to deal with the Earth issue, really, for me, is scour it clean, burn the surface of it, destroy it. You could then land on Earth anywhere you wanted, and it would look like nowhere you'd ever seen before. If I was going to do it, that's what I'd do. I would burn the Earth.
You could definitely do that, or you could. The other way to do it would be to take literally a couple of months, have a group of people make a sort of massive, like 5 or 6 or 8 different massive cityscape like grids, and then have the AI take those grids and start to populate and repopulate and whatever, and just sort of vary them a little here or there. Like, so if you take 8 basic grids, and when I say massive, I mean like really massive, like pretty much as far as you can see. You take 8 basic grids, then you run it through a filter process where someone goes through and just tick a box adds a feature here, removes a feature here. Add a water tower, remove a screen. Add a highway, remove a this, and then you add that with the guy that they hired or gal that they hired not that long ago to do the AI driving the cars. You layer those, and then you just set it to computer procedurally generate. I think you could make a at least compelling enough to where it's like, okay, this is a whole sort of one of those from Star Wars, like Coruscant or whatever. Wasn't that the big city world where it was just like it's buildings as far as you can see, and your brain will start to tune out?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that's absolutely doable. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, I think the pilot might have been onto something there.
I think I'm in his
I've been well up for that as well. I think that'd make that all of a sudden that would, it kicks the current format into touch. It's kind of like, right, great, you've had 6 years of this. That's good. We all know that. That's fantastic. Jolly good. Now let's wipe it clean and do something else.
Doesn't it dovetail nicely into everything that we think's coming and gives everything a kind of purpose? It it makes logical sense. That's for sure.
Yeah. I definitely love the idea of continuing the narrative, but sort of they've started the Thargoid narrative and then they treaded water for quite a bit. I would definitely like to see it progress in a meaningful way. And sure. I would also love, just changing the subject, I would love to interact. I would love for us to encounter more alien races that we don't necessarily immediately just shoot at. I would love to see us encounter another alien race that they are sort of refugees that are running away from Thargoid attacks, and we have to now deal with the logistics of, trying to have a compassionate interaction with others. And I think that sort of goes well with the theme of a lot of what's going on with the world today that we live in. Of there's a narrative, there's a story that you could tell there of how do you help others that are whether it's ecological refugees or from war or from different types of situations. How do you deal with, an Africa or a Syria or different areas where it's like, hey man, we have a responsibility here to show compassion and to try to help. We also have, though, a responsibility to sort of balance that and measure that with how do we treat our own population. So I think that could be an interesting story. And I just love the idea of interacting with something that we don't immediately shoot at. It seems like our history with regard to this game is we see a new thing, we shoot at it, and then there's interaction. And whether that's an alien race or whether that's even when we go to interact with the Guardian ruins or whatever, it's like, well, okay, well, how do you charge up this pylon? Shoot it. I would love to see some more Myst type interactions of here's a machine, here's a piece, you pick up the piece, you turn it over here, you flip a switch, it turns something on.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, completely. That's not outside the realms of possibility. Frontier's is kind of that sort of company as well, and that comes from the top down, I believe. So if you look at something like Planet Zoo, they come at it very much from an ecological preservation standpoint, and it's quite it's an accidentally educational game as well. You can learn a lot from playing something like Planet Zoo, and I can absolutely see that kind of thing going into something like Elite. And even if it is on a basic level, like giving us a way to interact with something that isn't human, other than opening fire on it. Yeah, absolutely.
Equally, they accidentally drop in a new Thargoid race. The first thing somebody does, Tato Chip goes and punches it to death. I mean, we're good, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, though. There is, I completely allow for that. I allow for the fact that if you put in an alien race that of refugees or whatever that we could interact with, that some people are going to choose to shoot. Like that's how that's free will and all of the joys that come with that. But free will right now does not include any form of meaningful communication or interaction that isn't shooting. So I would like at least the option. And the people that
I think it'd be nice
that choose. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I remember when we did the Sagittarius I did the Women in Space article a year or so ago, and there was quite a lot of differing opinions on the Thargoids, and a few of the sort of bigger female voices in the community were Yeah, the Thargoids might just be really misunderstood. Why can't we just communicate with them and actually find out and talk to them and negotiate? And it just gets you thinking. Yeah.
And I mean, maybe. Go ahead, Todd.
I'm actually a very big believer, Rheeney, that we are the aggressors in the Thargoid War. I think they're just defending themselves somehow.
I agree.
I sort of, but with the caveat, I agree with you that we were the aggressors in the Thargoid War. Now it's progressed to the point where both sides are geared up and ready for leather. So it's one of those situations.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. They are in scorched earth mode. They want to eradicate us now. So.
Yeah. I think I tend to look on them very much like a hornet's nest, like someone's gone in and stuck a stick in it, and now all the hornets are coming out going, "What the hell was that? Let's kill it!" So I think that's really what we're looking at.
100%. So, all right, going back to the you're sitting there at the with David Braben in the office.
Are we still hugging David Braben?
Are there any other interesting things? Let me just help you out. Well, you just said, hey, we'd love to have some interactions with other life forms or whatever. I'm surprised I didn't hear this from Rheeney. Let's get please let me give you 1,000 arcs or more, 10,000 arcs, whatever, and let me get a little pooch in a little Remlock outfit that can run around on my cockpit and grab little magnetic boots. Yeah, a co-pilot.
With co-pilots in there. Oh my God. Yes, please.
I would give 10,000 arcs for that.
I would.
Sold.
So definitely. Yep. I want that now. Thank you.
Or maybe a little a baboon that is part of the protectorate that just hangs out in Buur's cockpit with him. Just sits in the co-pilot chair eating a banana, looking at him like, "You what, mate? You what, mate?"
I do not sound like that.
We need our blue space monkey baboons, don't we?
Yeah,
we need them with
baboons.
us. I'm not sure if they're friendly or terrifying, but I think a bit of both.
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Yeah. Okay, so what about you made the point you want new ships, Rheeney. What new ships do you, first off, what new ships would you, if it's just a chalkboard, your ideas from your mouth to Braben's ears, what would you pick? And then what ship ideas do you sort of on a more realistic level think we might get coming up here, either with fleet carriers or with the 2020 paid update?
Oh, I have got no idea what practical in-game use they have. I just know what I want them to look like. I just think, I want more variation. I can't say Guatemala, can I? Because I don't want any more Guatemala shit.
Guatemalas, that's what
Guatemala.
Yeah, you know exactly what she's talking about. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Empire.
Hello. Would you like to see my beautiful sheep?
And you know what? Actually, bringing it full circle, we can go back to remember Romancing the Stone. Would you like to ride in my little donkey?
That's right. I would
digress.
Personally, I would like to see something like a freighter that's somewhere between a Type 9 and a fleet carrier that's so big that it can't get through the mail slot. Yeah, Clipper. That's so big that it can't get through the mail slot, and you have to use shuttlecraft to ferry stuff backwards and forwards to it.
Are they ever going to bring the Panther Clipper in? Is that ever going to happen?
Yeah,
it will.
Yeah, they will. Yeah,
surely
they're going to have to. That's going to have to. I think the thing that's holding back the Panther Clipper is that requires them to generate a whole new system, and that's going to be shuttles. So, but I think that shuttles should be a thing already for other reasons too. So
yeah.
Can we have some more SRVs as well? Can we have some different SRVs? Because I'm really bored of filming ones.
That was literally the next question I was going to ask.
Oh, sorry.
No. It's great. So what kind of? I would love the idea of a little like no weapons at all motorcycle type SRV that you can go out there and go nuts with.
Just like a scout kind of thing.
I love the idea of a big, huge, slow as hell dump truck type mining SRV that you could bring back lots of ore and stuff with.
Definitely. Yeah. Love that.
A troop carrier type, like the way the remember from you said in Aliens how they had that one that rolled off the ship that kind of looked a little like the Challenger or the Chieftain.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to drop other people's SRVs as well. I want to be able to pick up other people's SRVs up, carry them somewhere, and drop them.
Combat drops.
Yep.
I'd just settle to be able to drop my own SRV. I'm so tired of having to find a place to land my vet.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. That's what we talked about. So we basically the theory that the thing that we've said is, the Federation have the Corvette, which is the ultimate big combat ship that's a reputation lock. The Empire has the Cutter, which is the ultimate big trade ship, which is reputation lock. The Alliance, it even works in lore, because the lore for the Alliance is that what's his name, Mac? What's one of the original founders of the Alliance? Mac. Turner. Mick Turner. Right? Wasn't no.
Can't remember.
Anyways, the lore story is that the Alliance had originally sent off the explorer guy that was one half of the power couple that started the Alliance, set off in a special prototype reconnaissance, long-range reconnaissance ship, and he went out searching for the Thargoids. So the idea that Ty and I had was there needs to be an Alliance reputation, large exploration ship that looks something like the Chieftain, looks awesome. Gets, has absolute shit weapons, like one hard point, whatever, has absolute shit armor. It's horrible for it. It's horrible for cargo. It's not used for that. It doesn't mess with the balance of other stuff. But what it does have is, 100 plus light year jump range. It does have a special SRV bay. A special SLF bay that deploys an SLF that has no weaponry, but it has atmospheric landing capabilities, and it deploys an SRV.
That would be rather good. Wow.
So
a deployable from your deployable. Oh.
There you go. That could be the commercial. That could be the commercial for it.
We sit down in this fictional room with David Braben and go, "Hey Dave, how's it been? So, what I want to talk to you about is Russian dolls."
Do you like vehicles? We heard you like vehicles, so we put vehicles in your vehicles. Oh
Brilliant.
man,
I like that. I like that a lot.
So, what ships would you guys like to see added to the game, and what SRVs would you like added?
Genuinely, I would like a so I want a sort of a combat droppable armored personnel carrier kind of thing. I'd like to see tanks as well. I don't know how you'd fit them in, but I'd like to see like a ground war kind of thing. So when you attack an installation, there is actually, it's got viable defenses that need to be neutralized, and then you've got to roll heavy weaponry in there. So I'd like to see tanks. And as far as ships are concerned, I know it's a cliche, but I do want to see a Panther Clipper-ish kind of large transport vessel, but along the same lines. Now we've got lots and lots of ships that can kind of be homogenized and do sort of any one role. I'd like to see much more specialized roles with ships now.
That's a nice idea.
An exploration vessel, a warship. A miner, a transport, a dedicated transport ship. I'd like to see much more kind of very linear ship designs now that we've got this sort of bed of easily homogenizable, is that a word? Ships. That's my.
If it's not, it's a good word. It should be a word.
Yeah, it should be a word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, because I feel like they've, like over the last few ship releases, have been very generalized, with the possible exception of the Mamba. I feel like last few releases are very general, and they kind of got away from doing specialized ships, and that's a little disappointing. It's kind of how I feel about they got away from. I'm a big believer. I think large ships need a buff. I think that it should take multiple smalls and multiple mediums to take down a large ship.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea at all.
Maybe from a gameplay perspective, that's not fun, but from hundreds of millions of credits invested into, I think I'm up to 1 billion credits in my vet right now, how much it's actually worth. And, you can still get a Viper, and a good enough pilot. Viper on my 6 is going to take me out,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
I just kind of think that a ship like, I mean, yeah, there's some gameplay there from a, balancing perspective, but it shouldn't, in my mind, it shouldn't be that way. They should be fortresses. They should really be fortresses.
Yeah. I don't know what. Yeah, there's obviously sort of all sorts of design issues there that would need to be wrestled with internally, but that's not our problem, right? That's Frontier's problem. I don't care about that stuff. Yeah. I mean, even if it's like we've had the sort of top ships for quite a long time now. Maybe we need to start adding another tier on top of that is your indestroyable. As much as I don't want to get on the engineering grind.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this question: what about Raxla? I've spent the better part of a year looking for Raxla, and I have a new theory about where Raxla could be if it actually is in game.
Okay.
Because of, and I'm not ready to share that theory yet, but it will be coming, and we can talk about it offline afterwards if you guys are interested.
Okay. Next week's Switch Space News exclusive. Yep.
Do we want to just real quick address how we're calling that your idea? I think this was our idea.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Anyway. The thing is, Kaizen says a lot of things. Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't make them true.
Some of them true.
Oh wow!
Harsh.
Wow! Considering that this idea started with me calling him from while I was driving at work, saying, "Hey, I got a thing here that I'm thinking." I just got iced out of my idea. Ouch, that hurts. All right, go ahead.
I'm hearing a lot of words, but I'm not seeing a lot of proof. That's all.
All right. So in Kai's defense, he did. I'll give him 50% credit for the idea. Maybe like 60-40, but anyway.
Okay.
No, he's 100% right. We both were talking about it at the same time. We both kind of come to the same conclusion right about the same time. So, but anyway.
Okay.
Do you guys think it's even in the game? Because after spending a year looking for it, I kind of came to the conclusion that it's not in the game. That they're lying about it. They're just carroting us a little bit.
Okay. It depends very much what you mean by Raxla. So if we think that Raxla as in a world. If we assume that Raxla is a world, which I think, which is where I'm coming from, I think it is a planet. Do I think it's in the game? Yes, I do. Do I think it's called Raxla or is discoverable or findable at the moment? I don't know that is the case. I think the world of Raxla is in the game, yes, but it's probably in a massive permit locked region, and I don't think you can get to it at the moment. So it's in the game, but I don't think you can get to it. Is where I sit with that personally.
Yeah, I've actually kind of had the running theory that if it is in the game, that it's just not accessible. At least until last couple of months. And anyway, like I said, we can talk about it after. But yeah, after doing the year-long search and just scouring. And anybody I say that to is like, well, it's the galaxy's 400 billion star system. You can cover all that. We got like 0.5% discovered or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
yeah, but
I think personally, I'm a little bit cynical. I think it isn't there. I think nobody can get to it. I honestly think it is probably quite a good carrot, and when it suits them, if there is a time that it suits them, it will become accessible. But for now, it's a brilliant yarn to keep everybody hunting for, Atlantis or any of the other, it's the same kind of thing. And I think people love that kind of story. It's such a good story. So I'm sure it is there, but whether anybody can get to it yet, I don't think they probably can. I
suppose the problem with looking for Raxla is that no one really yet know. Not only do you not know where you're looking, you don't really know what it is you're looking for. So you're almost looking for a needle in a haystack without knowing what colour the needle is.
And also, if somebody found it, hasn't there got to be something like massive game-wise behind that, which they can't do? I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes and no, though, because...
Okay.
So here, let me give you an idea. Let's say we find Raxla right now. Like I just, hey guys, I just jumped into it. I found Raxla.
I found it.
Right. So here's what I would love to be the case. You find Raxla, and the mystery of Raxla is solved in that you have found it.
Okay.
But you're only on step 1 of 1 million. Right. So now that you found Raxla, like, okay, I found a planet, and there's a big ass fucking Stargate right there that you can fly a cutter through.
Yeah.
And it's turned off, and we have no idea how to make anything happen. It's right now, it's just a set piece. It's super easy for them to do. Okay, so you shoot it and nothing happens. But the planet that it's on, right, has a series of ruins 2 miles down the road. And right by the Stargate is a huge sort of a platform, a pedestal, a machine that you would use to like dial in a coordinates or to do something. But it's, turned off, and we can't figure out how to turn it on. So now you start a whole process where you start like the whole crew of the game down a sort of Da Vinci Code long quest of like, now we have to just decipher what the hell this writing is in this town that's 2 miles down the road. And then, okay, we figured that part out, and now we know we need these components. And now we're going around searching for all of these components. Okay, now we've tried to figure out how the pedestal works, and now we've got everything fixed, but the last piece we can't get. And then that last piece is the thing that Earth found on the moon, that little object that they found on the moon. That was it Mars or the moon? I forget. It
was Mars.
It was on Mars. That little artifact. So that by doing that, Frontier could allow us to find Raxla today, but still give themselves a lead up of many years if they
to get
wanted
it completed.
To say like, okay, the Raxla is going to be the gate that launches you into Andromeda, and when you launch into Andromeda, that's the next game. But at least we let you sort of continue that narrative and not just have it be, and it literally. So it's just, all it is trading one treadmill for another. It's not like they've written themselves into a corner where now they're like, fuck, we gave them the thing. And now it's like, no, you gave them the thing. And now it just starts a whole new game.
The whole thing. Yeah. Okay, if we're back in the room with David Braben, get him to give you a job. That would be good.
Well, I think we're coming into the end here. I don't think I have anything else to ask you guys. Kai, I mean, to be very frank with you, I could actually talk with you guys all damn day long about Elite. So,
I'm terrible once you get me on it. Yeah.
So let me just ask you guys real quick. That we've got from now until December. Obviously, fleet carriers are a thing that we pray and hope and expect and have faith that we will get. It would be awesome. But between now and December, there's a lot of time to kill. So give us some of your ideas on some of the things that you plan on doing with that time. Do you have any cool expeditions planned? Are you doing any? I know that you guys do speed bowling. I know that you guys do the BPMC. I know that you guys have your PFG or your player faction. So tell us what you're doing.
Let me just get one thing on the table right now. Okay, we are not associated with speed bowling, that disgusting sport.
I happen to know from seeing on your Discord that Sanderling says something different about that.
There
are individuals.
We happily host the speedball with Mr. Primetime Casual and Mr. Sandling.
There are individuals, one in particular, who's quite challenging to deal with.
It's a difficult German.
And we frankly we have a place where speed bowlers can go on our Discord just to keep that kind of rabble off of everyone else's. Because they are quite unpleasant people, all of them. Wow. Okay, so we did right. So as to what we've got planned. Okay, so for a start, there's the Pit Trip 2 is a thing that's happening. I don't know if you're aware of the Pit Trip.
We did Pit Trip 1.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Which was really good.
Anybody who didn't know, that was basically a series of day outings from the bubble that went out to.
It was like coach trips,
like little Elite. Coach trips. Yeah. So we are definitely doing a Pit Trip.
Coach Trip 2.
Yeah, for sure. We've just had Commander Snert and Commander Universally in our Discord. We're also in a squadron have jointly formed I can never remember what the acronym stands for, but
it's the B3S. It's the Boone Labs Scientific Suicide Squad. Scientific Squad, isn't it?
Yeah. So that is a division of the Burpit Squadron that is entirely dedicated to science. And by science, what I mean is messing about
events
in interesting and funny ways. So then we just had our first event from the science labs, which was Anaconda 10-pin bowling, essentially.
Yeah.
Where we stood, and so we got lots and lots of. There is a document between the four of us, myself, Rheeney, Universally, and Snert, that is absolutely stock full of mostly mad ideas from Commander Snert's brain, that are just all sorts of for events, basically. So one of the things we do in the Discord is we host regular events, and they could be anything from mining to large scale sort of encounters in combat zone,
combat nights,
anything like that. But also there's all this nuts stuff that's happening between now and the end of time, going by the size of the document at this point. So what happens is Snert usually comes up with a mad idea for doing a thing.
He also just keeps his ears on the ground, because lots of people, if you listen to your community, there's always lots of little rumblings about, we could do this, or how about we try, has anybody tried this, or and so they take notes as they hear it, which is just brilliant. And pull that together and then expand it and then turn those little sort of initial ideas into events.
It turns into an idea for an event, doesn't it? And then the science labs get hold of it. They work out how doable it is,
test
and
it all out.
What the logistics of it. And they also come from an angle of A, is it possible? And B, how can we make it enjoyable and easy for people to participate in? And they do all that science to make sure that it's an enjoyable, fun thing. And then that eventually turns into an event, which is hosted on our Discord. So there's a ton of that stuff coming up. God, what else is there?
Speed bowling primetime is obviously setting it up again for that would be the autumn.
That'll be probably around November time, I'd imagine.
Sadly, me and Bird don't actually get a huge amount of time to play, so the events is quite nice because it makes you actually put your work down and go off and actually do a bit of fun, because we spend just humongous amounts of hours just filming footage.
These days, we tend to organise the more vanilla events, don't we? The sort of the mass combat zones, or getting everybody to turn up in something that's fairly easy. It's just cat herding, just getting everybody to turn up in one place to do a fairly stock trade thing, and then we kind of help market and publicise the rest of the mad events.
I want to try and see if we can sort out another AXI combat night and do film another AX combat night. That would be fun, and get some of our guys to go over there and join up and
just a quick shout out to him, man. I've really been enjoying Primetime Casual's Casual Guide to the Galaxy season. It's been so good. The last thing with where he was talking about Titan's daughter and Tegeta and the Pleiades and all that stuff is man, it's great stuff.
Good stuff. I mean, the stuff, considering there's we haven't had new content, the amount of stuff this community finds to do in the game is just brilliant. And then seeing people do their own projects and go off and do stuff, it's I love it.
Great.
Really love it.
I think Papa Bear, go ahead.
I've said it many times before. The thing I love about this game is also the same thing I hate about this game, and that it's you kind of have to create your own fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a weird one, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I think Papa Bear Ty is going to have an idea that we can talk about when we stop the recording going, of another interesting thing that we might be able to do to fill up some time between now and December.
Excellent. Okay. That sounds interesting. Yeah. And then in real life, we've got the UCM and LaveCon, which is our first outings in the elitosphere, isn't it, in the real world? So they should be equally nervous, terrified, but awfully excited as well. So they're going to be fun to go and actually meet people in the flesh. It's going to be weird, but really, really good. Looking forward to those.
It's awesome.
So I wanted to kind of give you guys an opportunity to do any shout outs or do any plugging of anything that you guys got coming up or anything like that. Do you have anything y'all want to shout out or plug?
God, who can we?
I think it's everybody we've mentioned. I think Yeah.
I'd like to, the problem is with giving a list like this is you're always worried you're going to miss someone off. And I don't want to cop out by doing a catch-all phrase, but I'm going to cop out and do a catch-all phrase. But anybody who's in our Discord, so people like Primetime and Sandling and Eagle and Snur and
Alex Turner,
John Thomas,
just everyone, all of us together.
All these people who just, we basically a lot of the time report on what they do, but all we're doing is telling everyone else what happened. They went and did it, So those guys, they've been so supportive of us as well. Like there was a moment in this house where we all squealed like 6-year-old girls because Alec Turner spoke about us on the forum. That was a real benchmark moment for us. When he discovered Witchspace News and put us in his best of the forum and other places post, that legendary thread of his.
Yeah.
When he put us in there, so like anybody who's sort of who's been supportive and has helped us make what little noise we can has just been fantastic. And I don't want to miss anyone out by not mentioning them, but thank you. You know who you are, all of you. With regards to what we've got coming up, I think we've spoken about it already, really. The only sort of major event, I suppose, would be Pit Trip 2, which will probably happen around October, he says, looking at his wife.
Yeah, and that's nice because that's community driven. We put it out to everyone in Discord and just see where everybody wants to go, and that's a sort of collaborative effort, really. So that makes that more fun because everybody gets involved in actually planning where we go. We didn't actually think anybody would turn up last year, so it kind of caught us out a bit.
Oh God, it was we literally thought we'd get about sort of 5 or 10 of the kind of hardcore regulars who would turn up, and it ended up being this massive thing.
Yeah, we screed when it was more than 10 people.
Yeah,
so. I think that's about.
I can't think of anything else. Yeah,
and thank you to you guys.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, to have someone to have someone sort of turn around and go, oh, "We'd like to talk to you." What, like publicly? Really?
What, really? Wow. Really? You want to talk to us? Wow.
Well, we are in fact in your top 10 favorite podcast list on Elite Dangerous, so that makes me
easily.
We try and listen and watch as much of the rest of the Elite Dangerous content as we can, and it's really hard because we've got quite busy lives outside of the game. But we have started. You're quite new to us because we're rubbish at finding stuff. So sorry about that. But we have now started listening to you guys on a regular basis.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
Usually when we're throwing dinner together on a Saturday.
I have to say there is another shout out there, reverse shout out, which doesn't really need it, but really appreciate it. Is Exegius with it, because it was through Exegius that we heard about you, and to close this side of the loop off with everything that he's now doing on EDT. I just think it's just amazing. It's just literally heartwarming to see all these sort of people coming together.
There's a lovely cross-pollination thing happening at the moment, isn't it? Brilliant.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And speaking of, I want to give a shout out before we wrap this up. I'm going to hijack it and give a shout out. One of my favorite YouTubers recently just announced that they hit the 5,000 subscriber mark. So big shout out to the Burr Pit for that. Congratulations, guys.
Oh heavens! Thank you very much.
Shucks.
I did not realize that. Wow. Because the other day, I feel like the other day I just looked and it was still like at 4.9 or whatever, and I was watching for that.
It's rapidly heading towards 5.5 at the moment.
I think we're going to get 5.5 this week. So
I think Ty's got his backyard property destruction on his brain. Ty, I announced it last week on the show. Really? Ty's like, I don't listen when you talk, bro. I get a sandwich.
But that's okay because he was dealing with his honky donk. Let's say
Ty is dealing with the bigger issues. Yeah, he's got the world on his shoulders.
Much more important.
The donkey's eating his fence.
Just for the record, when Rheeney says Ty is dealing with his honky donk, we need to isolate that because that could mean something entirely different in
There's
America.
a bumper for you right there.
God, I literally walk into it tonight.
All right.
Wait, you literally walk into the honky donk?
I'm going to shush. I shall stop digging a hole.
Oh my gosh. Man. This has been great. This has been great. This has been fun. I really appreciate you guys joining us.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys coming on and talking to us, and I really appreciate you guys listening to my show or listen to our show. Sorry, and sorry, Kyle.
It's yours, Ty. It's yours.
Hey, I'm just the Mexican who does all the landscaping around here.
No, what you guys are doing is good stuff. It's really, really
anything like this is a team effort. Anything,
and it's brilliant.
I'm a great big introvert, so for have someone on here like Kai who loves to talk, it's great because I don't like to talk. So it's great for me.
And, as an added bonus, in the last week or so, he's let me start to come in the house to use the bathroom when I'm doing yeah.
Who knows where it'll end?
I got to be honest, I can't see that lasting, but yeah, great.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. The one time in my
guys.
life, I actually had a gardener. He wasn't even Mexican, so I'm just saying that. So the landscaper, he wasn't even Mexican. I'm just saying.
So, okay, we cannot end this recording. We cannot let this recording go. I'm going to say my for the mug right now because the last words of this recording has got to be Buur giving us the sign out of the toast rack.
Excellent.
Oh, God. Okay, hang on. Let me get my brain in gear before I do that. Hang on.
So I confuse you by saying it's not a toast rack, it's a letterbox.
No, don't. Will, do you remember Will did this to me on stream, didn't he? And I completely forgot what it was I say.
All the greens.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah. Hang on.
This is not the Witch Space News. I am Commander Buur.
You can edit this bit out, right?
Absolutely not. Not now.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back later this week with more podcasts, I guess. Until then, 07 Commanders, follow the greens on the way out, and do, please, keep clear of the toast rack. We very much look forward to seeing you next time.